Hey there, sleepyheads. Welcome back to the channel. Before we drift into tonight's tale of the dreams of Pendleton Ward, I'd love to know where in the world you're watching from tonight. And what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments below. It's always magical seeing how far and wide this sleepy little community reaches. All right, lights low, blankets up. Let's begin. Tonight's story isn't about a kingdom, or a hero, or even a monster beneath the waves. It's about a dreamer, a quiet artist who somewhere in the folds of time and imagination dreamed an entire universe into being. His name is Pendleton Ward, though most of us simply know him as the gentle force behind Adventure Time. But before he was the creator of a world filled with candy people and cosmic beings, he was something else entirely, a listener to the whispering language of dreams. When you look at the Land of Ooo, its wild colors and strange logic, you can feel that it wasn't built from blueprints or formulas. It feels alive. It feels like something born from the drifting edge between sleep and waking. The place where your mind begins to wander and everything ordinary begins to shimmer into something extraordinary. That's where Pendleton's art came from that soft borderland between the real and the imagined. As a child, he spent countless hours sketching strange little worlds that seemed to breathe their own air. They weren't perfect. They weren't polished. But they had soul, the kind that comes from simply following what feels right instead of what makes sense. The world would later call that surrealism or experimental animation. But for Pendleton, it was simply play, the kind of pure, unfiltered creativity that most of us lose as we grow older. When Adventure Time first appeared, people didn't quite know what to make of it. It was silly, yes. It was colorful and absurd. But hidden beneath its surface, laughter was a depth of emotion that no one expected. Episodes that started with jokes ended with quiet reflections on loneliness, or the ache of change, or the strange comfort of finding meaning in chaos. It was like someone had turned a dream inside out and shown us how heartbreak and humor can live in the same breath. Pendleton once described himself as someone who likes to imagine worlds that feel good to be inside. That simple idea became the heart of his creative philosophy. Ooo wasn't just a setting, it was a feeling. Every shape, every character, every melody in its world hummed with that soft intention to make people feel safe in the midst of nonsense. Like a child's dream that, no matter how strange, always ends with a sense of wonder instead of fear. And yet, there's something mysterious about the way his imagination works. It doesn't obey the rules of storytelling we usually expect. Characters wander through episodes without clear beginnings or endings. Entire arcs unfold like memories being remembered in the wrong order. It's not linear, it's emotional. It flows the way thoughts drift when you're half asleep, moving from one feeling to another without needing explanation. That's part of what made Adventure Time so special. It wasn't trying to tell you what to think. It was inviting you to feel. In a way, Pendleton Ward didn't just create a show, he dreamed a new kind of storytelling into existence. One where logic takes a nap and sincerity takes the stage. One where you can meet a talking lemon, a sentient video game console, or a vampire who sings about regret, and somehow it all feels real. Because deep down, our dreams have always spoken that same strange language. If you close your eyes and think about Ooo, you might notice something, the quiet balance of chaos and peace. Candy people laughing beside ruins of the old world. A kingdom floating over a shattered earth. Pendleton never tried to hide the apocalyptic undertones of his creation. Instead, he softened them with warmth, turning a desolation into a playground for imagination. It's as though he wanted to remind us that even after everything ends, life continues to dream. Behind that whimsical tone lies something profoundly spiritual. Ward's dream logic hints at the idea that Everything joy, sorrow, destruction, rebirth belongs to one great cycle. That even the strangest moments have their place in the cosmic rhythm. He once said he didn't like stories that forced people to feel a certain way. Instead, he wanted to make space for the feelings to arrive naturally, like tides. That's why Ooo feels like a breathing world, unpredictable, alive, always changing. You can feel Pendleton's quiet touch in every small moment, in the way Jake tells Finn that everything small is just a smaller version of something big, and how the Ice King's madness hides a human tragedy. Oh, and how Marceline's songs hold the ache of immortality. Each piece of the world reflects a fragment of Ward's own dreamscape, playful on the surface, melancholy underneath, and deeply human all the way through. Even the art style speaks in the language of dreams. Round shapes, simple lines, bright colors, all designed to feel welcoming and soft. But when you look closer, that simplicity hides something deliberate. The visual world of Adventure Time carries a kind of meditative stillness, where every frame could almost be a moment frozen in thought. It doesn't rush you. It lets your eyes wander, just as the story lets your mind drift. Pendleton once mentioned how much he loved quiet moments, the pauses between chaos where characters just exist. That's a rare kind of storytelling, especially in animation. He allowed silence to speak. He let the characters breathe, to be confused or tender or silly without explanation. In doing so, he mirrored the way dreams unfold, not through dialogue or logic, but through mood and rhythm. It's almost as if Adventure Time was never meant to be understood. It was meant to be felt. To reach that quiet space within you, where words lose meaning and only sensation remain. Ward built his universe as an emotional language, one that invites the viewer to interpret freely, to project their own dreams onto his. And that's what makes him such an unusual kind of creator. He isn't the storyteller standing above his world, directing every detail. He's the dreamer floating within it, letting it form naturally, as though Ooo were dreaming itself into being through it. When you look at Adventure Time from that angle, it feels less like a cartoon and more like a shared subconscious, a place where the innocence of childhood meets the wisdom of impermanence. To Pendleton, creation was a process of letting go. Letting go of control, of rigid structure, of the expectation that stories must always make sense. He trusted that meaning would rise to the surface on its own, like air bubbles through water. That trust, quiet and gentle, became the secret current beneath his work. And through it, he revealed something beautiful. The chaos and order are not enemies. They're simply parts of the same dream. When you listen closely to Pendleton Ward's creative rhythm, you begin to sense that his imagination follows the same pattern as a lucid dreamer's breath. Slow, curious, never fully awake, never fully asleep. He once described his process as simply drawing what felt right, trusting that the story would reveal itself later. That might sound aimless, but it's what gave Adventure Time its one-of-a-kind heartbeat. Every episode feels like a wandering thought that stumbled into meaning by accident, and yet those accidents always seem to land exactly where they're meant to. Pendleton's genius wasn't in constructing elaborate plots or polished arcs. It was in trusting intuition. The same kind of intuition the children use when they draw when a line becomes a creature, and a circle becomes a sun, and the world feels both endless and possible. He nurtured that sense of openness, that space for discovery, and it allowed his world to bloom naturally, almost as if it was dreaming itself awake. If you think about how dreams work, you'll notice how they connect things that shouldn't belong together, memories, colors, echoes of feelings. Pendleton's work does the same. He lets joy and sadness intertwine, turning contradiction into harmony. There's something deeply spiritual in that, something that reflects the nature of consciousness itself, the idea that every emotion, every thought, even the broken ones, belong to the same infinite tapestry. In interviews, Ward often spoke with a kind of shyness, as though explaining the magic would make it disappear. His thoughts would trail off mid-sentence, his tone light and self-effacing. But you could tell he was always chasing something profound. He didn't speak in rigid philosophies or artistic manifestos. His wisdom was gentle, childlike, and often cloaked in humor. The more you listen, the more you realize that his worldview is not one of certainty, but of wonder. When he talked about creating Adventure Time, he once said that he just wanted to make something that feels nice. Simple words, but they reveal a deep truth about the way he approached art. He wasn't trying to impress, or provoke, or even teach. He wanted to create a place where people could wrest a world that felt safe, even when it was strange. In a way, that's what dreams are meant to be. They're not there to make sense. They're there to hold us while we process the parts of ourselves we can't face in the waking world. And that's why so many people describe watching Adventure Time as an emotional experience more than an intellectual one. You can feel the warmth of it, the way its world cradles you with colors, laughter, and quiet melancholy. Even its moments of sadness have a softness to them. Pendleton didn't shy away from dark themes. He simply wrapped them in kindness. Every heartbreak was cushioned by beauty, every loss illuminated by a small moment of connection. There's a reason his stories resonate so deeply with those who feel a little out of place in the world. His universe makes space for everyone, the lonely, the anxious, the dreamers, the wanderers. It says gently that it's okay to be strange, to be uncertain, to not have everything figured out, because in Ooo, the oddest things often turn out to be the most meaningful. In Pendleton's dream logic, the world isn't divided into good or bad. It's all part of one long conversation between opposites. Fire Princess and Ice King, Marceline and her father, Finn and the passage of time, all are reflections of the same search for harmony. That balance between chaos and peace mirrors the balance inside Pendleton himself. He said that making Adventure Time could be overwhelming, that living inside such a bright, boundless imagination sometimes blurred the line between joy and exhaustion. But even that struggle, in its way, found expression in his art. The tiredness, the tenderness, the yearning to rest, all of it became part of the dream. There's a quiet courage in that, to create something so personal that it carries your own uncertainties within it, yet still offer it to the world as a gift. Pendleton Ward did exactly that. He built Ooo not as a perfect vision, but as a mirror of his own human complexity, a place that could hold both laughter and loneliness without judgment. And that's why the show feels so emotionally honest. It never pretends to have all the answers. It just keeps exploring, like a dream that keeps unfolding new corners each time you return to it. Sometimes the most revealing moments in Adventure Time are the quietest ones, the pauses where the music drifts and the characters sit together, saying nothing at all. Pendleton seemed to understand that silence can carry more truth than dialogue. Those moments of stillness are where the dream breathes. They give you time to feel the heartbeat beneath the absurdity, to sense that something sacred is hiding in the nonsense. And perhaps that's what makes his work so soothing. Beneath the layers of humor and chaos, there's always calm, a reminder that the universe, no matter how strange it becomes, still hums with peace if you listen closely enough. Pendleton's stories don't shout their meaning. They whisper it, like a lullaby carried by wind through distant stars. The whisper, that softness, is what shaped the Land of Ooo. Every creature, every landscape, every offbeat song carries a bit of Pendleton's heartbeat. And the more you watch, the more it feels like you're wandering through someone's dream, one that welcomes you in, wraps you in warmth, and says, "Stay as long as you need." The more we wander through the dreamscape of Ooo, the clearer it becomes that Pendleton Ward's imagination was never about escaping reality, it was about reinterpreting it. He once hinted that much of Adventure Time came from feelings he couldn't quite explain in words. Rather than force those feelings into logic, he gave them faces and voices. Sadness became a vampire who sings to herself. Anxiety became a wizard obsessed with love. Memory became a kingdom made of glass, fragile, but beautiful. Through his dream logic, Ward translated emotion into mythology. That's what gives Adventure Time its quiet depth. Beneath the laughter and candy-colored chaos, it's a meditation on how we live with our inner worlds, how we carry grief, joy, confusion, and wonder all at once. In a sense, Pendleton's work teaches us that our emotions are not mistakes. They are the raw materials of creation. When you look at Ooo, you're not just seeing a fantasy world. You're seeing the landscape of a mind learning to love its own complexity. Pendleton's drawings often began as spontaneous doodles. He said that he liked to start without knowing what he was making, to let the shapes guide him. That habit of following instinct rather than plan shaped everything he touched. He allowed his subconscious to steer the story, trusting that it would reveal truth more honestly than structure ever could. It's why Adventure Time feels so alive. It doesn't unfold like a script. It breathes like a dream. In that breathing, you can sense his sensitivity, that deep empathy that soaks through every corner of his universe. Even the villains are never entirely villains. The Lich, for instance, embodies destruction, yet he too fits into the balance of life and rebirth. Pendleton seemed to believe that even darkness has purpose. His worlds are never cruel for cruelty's sake. They always circle back to understanding, to some quiet truth waiting just beneath the chaos. When you slow down and listen to his stories, you begin to notice how spiritual they are, even when they're wrapped in absurdity. There's a recurring sense of cycles, endings that fold into beginnings, love that transforms but never dies. It's a worldview that feels less like fantasy and more like ancient philosophy whispered through a child's daydream. Pendleton's approach to storytelling mirrors the rhythm of meditation. Inhale, exhale, chaos, calm, change, acceptance. That pattern shows up in how Adventure Time handles time itself. The show rarely moves in straight lines. Memories blend with the present. Dreams become real. Characters change form or lose their way, only to rediscover themselves in unexpected places. It's as if the entire series takes place in the fluid space of the mind, where past and future are always dancing. Pendleton used that fluidity to remind us that nothing in life or in dreams ever truly disappears. It simply becomes something new. His fascination with transformation is everywhere. From Princess Bubblegum's shifting morality to Finn's gradual journey from boyhood to adulthood, every arc carries the soft pulse of change. Pendleton's dream isn't static. It's always evolving, just as he was. In interviews, he often admitted that Adventure Time reflected his own emotions, his own sense of confusion and growth. When he felt uncertain, so did his characters. When he found clarity, they mirrored it too. It's as though Ooo was his diary, written in symbols and laughter. But perhaps the most beautiful thing about Pendleton's dream is how it welcomes imperfection. The lines in his sketches aren't sharp. The characters wobble, their voices crack, the stories loop and meander. Yet within that imperfection lies truth. He seemed to understand that art doesn't need to be flawless. It just needs to be sincere. Dreams aren't clean or tidy, and neither is life. By embracing that messiness, Pendleton allowed Adventure Time to feel deeply human, even when its characters were made of candy or fire. You can see his humility woven through every detail. He never placed himself above his creation. He laughed at it, questioned it, and let it surprise him. That openness, that willingness to be vulnerable, gave his work its quiet magic. It's why fans feel so connected to it, even years later. You don't just watch Adventure Time. You feel like you're remembering it, as if it's part of a collective dream you somehow forgot you had. In this way, Pendleton Ward is less of an author and more of a dream channeler. He listens to the quiet hum of imagination and translates it into something the waking world can hold. There's no separation between his dream and ours. Ooo exists in the shared space between them. That's what makes it timeless. When you return to an episode years later, it feels different, as though it's been quietly dreaming while you were away, reshaping itself to match who you've become. Pendleton once mentioned that he loved stories where everything felt alive, where you could sense that even the smallest background detail had a secret life of its own. That's why the Land of Ooo never feels empty. Every mushroom, every breeze, every forgotten ruin seems to be whispering. The world hums with the leftover dreams, fragments of imagination, too delicate to fade. Watching Adventure Time feels like walking through someone's mind and discovering that it's made of music. And yet, for all its cosmic vastness, Pendleton's dream remains deeply personal. Beneath the world-saving adventures and magical quests, there's a quiet question running through everything. How do we keep our hearts open? Every character in Ooo faces that question in their own way. Finn learns it through growing up. Marceline learns it through forgiveness. The Ice King learns it through loss. Pendleton, too, seemed to wrestle with it, how to stay open to beauty while carrying the weight of creation. In that struggle, we find the soul of his dream. It isn't about perfection or understanding. It's about tenderness, about being soft in a world that asks us to be hard, about finding meaning, not in clarity, but in compassion. Pendleton Ward didn't just dream a world, he dreamed a feeling, a gentle one that continues to echo softly in everyone who's ever closed their eyes and found themselves wandering through the Land of Ooo. If you imagine Pendleton Ward at his desk, sketchbook open, headphones in, surrounded by tiny drawings that seem to smile back at him, you can almost feel that dream energy humming in the air. His workspace was never about precision or control. It was about listening to what the lines wanted to become, what the shapes whispered as they emerged from the page. He once said he didn't like to plan stories too much because overthinking could make the magic disappear. Instead, he tried to let the characters show him who they were. That openness became the foundation of Adventure Time's soul. The series grew not from structure, but from trust, a trust in instinct, in collaboration, and in the invisible rhythm that guides all living stories. Pendleton surrounded himself with other dreamers, artists, writers, and animators who shared his love for the unpredictable. Together, they built something that defied rules, something that felt alive because it was allowed to be. Every creative voice added a new ripple to the dream, and Pendleton let those ripples flow. That humility, the willingness to release control, is what turned Adventure Time from a cartoon into a phenomenon of feeling. If you look at his work closely, you'll notice that it never tries to wake you up. Even when the show deals with deep loss or cosmic despair, there's always softness in the way it delivers those truths. Pendleton's dream is kind. It never scolds. It teaches through wonder. When a character cries, it's okay. When someone fails, it's okay too. The world of Ooo always forgives. That compassion reflects the man behind it, an artist whose own inner life was filled with quiet empathy for the broken, the uncertain, and the strange. There's an almost sacred gentleness to the way Ward portrays emotion. Finn's confusion about who he's supposed to be, Marceline's tender ache for connection, the Ice King's fragmented memories, all these moments carry a spiritual undertone. They speak to the shared experience of being human, even within a world of fantasy. Pendleton's dream logic makes it safe to face feelings we often avoid in waking life. Through absurdity, he tells the truth softly enough for us to hear. And maybe that's the real magic of Pendleton's storytelling. He gives meaning to nonsense. Every joke, every surreal image, every strange twist feels like a metaphor waiting to bloom. The dream is never random, it's intuitive. When Jake stretches across impossible distances, or when Finn's sword becomes an extension of his soul, we're watching symbols of transformation, of identity and impermanence. Pendleton weaves philosophy through humor so seamlessly that you almost don't notice it until the quiet after laughter, when a feeling lingers that you can't quite name. That lingering, that subtle echo is what turns his work into something spiritual. Dreams have a way of speaking in symbols rather than explanations. They let us feel the truth rather than define it. Ward's worlds do the same. They don't tell us what to believe. They invite us to sense the invisible threads connecting everything. It's why the show feels meditative, even when it's silly. The rhythm of its storytelling mirrors the rhythm of breathing, the rise and fall of thought, the looping pattern of life and rebirth. If you trace that rhythm far enough, you begin to see Pendleton's creative philosophy in its purest form, the art of surrender. To dream is to let go, to allow the subconscious to guide your hands. Pendleton lived in that space of surrender between control and chaos, where creation becomes communion. He wasn't chasing mastery, he was chasing honesty. He seemed to understand that imagination isn't something we command, but something that flows through us when we become quiet enough to receive it. And perhaps that's why so many people find comfort in his worlds. His dream tells us that we don't need to have everything figured out to create beauty, that being lost is part of being alive, that confusion can still lead to connection. In Pendleton's universe, the unknown isn't frightening, it's full of promise. Every unanswered question becomes an invitation to dream deeper. If you close your eyes now and picture the Land of Ooo, you can almost feel it breathing. The distant sound of wind over broken hills, the faint shimmer of candy towers under the twilight, the way the stars seem to hum, as if they're remembering something ancient. That world, though fictional, holds an emotional truth as real as anything we've lived, because it came from a place beyond logic, from a heart unafraid to dream with its eyes open. Pendleton Ward never set out to be a prophet or a philosopher. He was simply an artist who loved the feeling of creating. Yet in his quiet way, he built one of the most profound modern myths, one that mirrors the very process of dreaming itself. His work reminds us that imagination is not an escape from life, but a reflection of it, that the absurd and the sacred are not opposites, but companions. So when we look at Adventure Time now, years after its first broadcast, it feels less like a show and more like a shared vision, one that continues to unfold inside those who still dream of it. Pendleton Ward may have been the one who first saw it, but the dream belongs to everyone who steps inside. And maybe that's how it was always meant to be. A world without walls, born from kindness, guided by curiosity, and kept alive by the imagination of all who wander through it. Pendleton Ward, the dreamer behind the veil, didn't just create a universe. He taught us how to listen to the quiet places of our own minds, how to see beauty in nonsense and meaning in mystery. He showed us that to dream is to live gently, to let the world form around you like a melody you don't need to understand to love. And as the stars settle over Oo's horizon, you can almost hear the echo of his imagination, still unfolding, still dreaming, somewhere between sleep and waking, a soft reminder that the dream goes on. If the Land of Ooo was Pendleton Ward's dream, then perhaps this is where we learn to read its map, not the kind drawn on parchment, but the kind traced across the mind. Every curve, every mountain, every strange creature feels like a reflection of thought itself, as if the subconscious were given shape and color. Ward didn't just build a fantasy world. He built a geography of feeling, one that stretches from the quiet depths of sorrow to the sunlit peaks of joy. When we travel through Ooo, it's easy to see it as a playful adventure. But beneath that playfulness lies an emotional architecture. Each region seems to mirror a different part of the psyche. The Candy Kingdom, bright and childlike, represents comfort and innocence. The Ice Kingdom, frozen and lonely, speaks of isolation and memory. The Fire Kingdom burns with passion and chaos, the raw energy of feeling itself. Pendleton never spelled these meanings out, yet they hum beneath the surface, shaping the world's rhythm like a heartbeat beneath laughter. He once mentioned that he'd like to create things that felt like they came from dreams familiar but slightly distorted. And that's exactly what Ooo feels like. Its landscapes are warped echoes of our own, filled with impossible physics and improbable beauty. A forest might shimmer one moment and vanish the next. A lake might remember the face of whoever gazes into it. Every piece of Ooo behaves like an emotion, taking form, vivid, unpredictable, always shifting. Dream logic, after all, is not chaos. It's intuition. And Pendleton's storytelling lives inside that intuition. He trusted that the subconscious knows how to guide itself even when the path seems strange. Watching Adventure Time often feels like wandering through someone's daydream, a place where laughter can dissolve into melancholy without warning, where a joke about a magic donut suddenly reveals a hidden ache about the passage of time. The journey doesn't follow a line. It spirals, meanders, drifts, just as thoughts do when we close our eyes. The subconscious doesn't care for boundaries, and neither did Pendleton. His stories often slip between genres, between tones, between moods. Comedy melts into tragedy. Science fiction collides with ancient myth. It's as though every possibility of storytelling coexists in one flowing current. That freedom mirrors the way dreams weave together fragments of everything we've ever known. Ooo becomes the landscape of memory itself, the collective imagination of a post-apocalyptic Earth rediscovering how to feel alive. Sometimes when you pause on a single frame, you can see this cartography unfolding visually. The bright shapes and playful outlines aren't just artistic choices, they're emotional signals. The world of Adventure Time is drawn like a mind in motion, smooth, round, fluid, without sharp edges. Even its monsters seem oddly gentle. Pendleton's subconscious language avoids harshness. It prefers curves to corners, compassion to confrontation. It's as though he wanted to remind us that even the strangest emotions can be softened if we approach them with curiosity instead of fear. The Candy Kingdom, in particular, reflects that soft yearning for comfort. It's sweet and colorful, ruled by Princess Bubblegum, a figure who embodies both logic and love. Her kingdom represents the part of the mind that seeks to build order from chaos, that wants to protect innocence even when it means over-controlling it. But as we explore deeper, we see the cracks. Beneath the sugary perfection lies exhaustion, anxiety, the burden of responsibility. Pendleton's subconscious geography doesn't allow perfection to stay pure. It reveals the complexity behind it. Every bright surface hides a shadow. Every smile hints at longing. Then there's the Ice Kingdom, a frozen expanse ruled by the tragic Ice King, once a man named Simon Petrikov. His landscape mirrors grief in physical form. The ice is beautiful, glimmering, but it isolates. It keeps everything preserved, but lifeless. In Simon's story, we find a haunting metaphor for the way memory freezes time. How clinging to what we've lost can turn us into ghosts of ourselves. And yet, even in that cold solitude, Pendleton threads compassion. The Ice King is not a villain. He's a dreamer trapped inside his own mind, still reaching for love. If we follow the map further, we find the Fire Kingdom. Raw emotion, burning and wild. Flame Princess, its ruler, is the embodiment of unrestrained feeling. She cannot love without risk, cannot exist without consuming. The Fire Kingdom represents the parts of us that fear our own intensity, the emotions we try to contain but cannot extinguish. In Ward's subconscious geography, even anger and passion have their sacred place. They are not punished or shamed. They are simply allowed to exist. Each of these lands, each strange creature and kingdom, fits together like pieces of a living psyche. Ooo is a mind externalized, where every valley and sky holds meaning. Even the nightosphere, ruled by Marceline's father, feels like a descent into the collective shadow, that vast, chaotic realm of suppressed feelings and moral ambiguity. Ward's ability to treat darkness with humor keeps it from becoming frightening. His subconscious doesn't hide from its monsters. It befriends them. Pendleton once said he liked to think of Adventure Time as a place where characters could grow up naturally, without being forced into arcs or messages. That openness makes the world feel alive, as though it's dreaming alongside the viewer. Every new episode reshapes the geography slightly. A new forest appears, a city shifts, a sky changes color. Oo's map refuses to stay still because the subconscious it represents never stops moving. When you step back and look at it all together, Adventure Time becomes a gentle mirror for how the human mind navigates change. Its surreal landscapes are emotional landscapes, reflecting the constant negotiation between innocence and experience, chaos and order, fear and love. Pendleton Ward didn't design Ooo to be explored in a straight line. He designed it to be felt, to be wandered through slowly, like a lucid dream where each turn reveals something about yourself. As we drift deeper into this dream map, it becomes clearer that Pendleton Ward was never just sketching places. He was charting moods, drawing topographies of the soul. The strange beauty of Ooo is that it doesn't simply represent emotions. It moves through them. Each episode feels like a journey across a new emotional climate. One day it's bright and silly, full of friendship and pancakes. The next, it's quiet and blue, haunted by memories of love that couldn't last. The world breathes with its own rhythm, as though Ward's subconscious were turning in its sleep, dreaming new continents into existence with every heartbeat. Even the small, often overlooked details of Ooo, the background shapes, the ambient sounds, the faded ruins, all seem to whisper of something larger. You can almost feel Pendleton's fascination with what lies beneath the surface of things. There's always an echo of something ancient, something lost. The remnants of human civilization peek through like fossils of forgotten dreams. A rusted car buried in candy soil, a billboard half swallowed by moss. These fragments remind us that Ooo was not born from nothing. It rose from the ashes of a world we once knew, a subconscious reconstruction of a planet healing itself through imagination. This, perhaps, is where Ward's dream logic becomes most profound. He treats the apocalypse not as an ending, but as a beginning. The Great Mushroom War, the cataclysm that shaped Ooo, feels less like destruction and more like transformation. The subconscious takes the trauma of annihilation and turns it into something whimsical and alive. Candy people grow where humans once walked. Magic returns where technology failed. It's the psyche healing itself, creating new forms to replace the old ones that broke. Ooo is both dream and therapy, an emotional afterlife for humanity's mistakes. And yet, in that renewal, there is always a trace of melancholy. Pendleton's world doesn't ignore what came before, it gently mourns it. Episodes like Simon Marcy or I Remember You shimmer with this tenderness, that aching recognition of memory's fragility. The past lingers in songs, in artifacts, in lonely hearts. But instead of letting sorrow dominate, Ward's dream balances it with kindness. His subconscious map accepts both grief and joy as part of the same landscape, like rivers that flow together into one sea. This delicate balance is what makes his creative cartography feel so human. Dreams can be chaotic, but Pendleton's are compassionate. There's always a soft edge to the strangeness. When we meet characters like Tree Trunks or Peppermint Butler, their absurdity is never mockery, it's endearment. They embody how dreams reinterpret reality, taking the ordinary and bending it just enough to make it magical. Every object in Ooo could be something you saw once in a half-forgotten dream, reshaped into something friendlier. Pendleton's subconscious also plays with symbols that repeat across the show circles, loops, cycles. The very structure of Adventure Time resists linear storytelling. It doesn't march toward a clear conclusion, but drifts in gentle spirals. Characters change slowly, almost imperceptibly, like tides. This circular rhythm reflects the subconscious's tendency to revisit emotions again and again until they resolve. Ward's narrative doesn't seek closure. It seeks understanding. You can see this circularity in Finn's emotional growth. He returns to lessons he's already learned, but in new ways: forgiveness, loss, compassion. Each time he encounters an echo of the past, he sees it differently, as though his subconscious were guiding him to notice subtler truths. It's a process many of us know well, the way healing repeats itself in waves. Pendleton's storytelling mirrors the way the psyche evolves, not in straight lines, but in spirals of awareness. Even the show's humor is part of this subconscious mapping. The jokes are strange, often dreamlike sudden non sequiturs, surreal visual gags, bits of nonsense that somehow feel deeply meaningful. They mimic the randomness of thought, the way the mind plays with itself when it drifts. In Ward's universe, laughter becomes a language of the dreamer. It's not meant to break tension, but to remind us that even in confusion, there's warmth. The landscapes themselves are dream symbols, too. Oceans of jelly, floating islands, deserts made of glass. Each one reflects the elasticity of imagination, but also the fragility of memory. Some places vanish after a single episode, as though they were never meant to last. That's the way dreams work. Vivid for a moment, then gone, leaving only an emotional residue. Ward's world respects that impermanence. He doesn't try to explain every mystery or resolve every arc. He allows the unknown to remain sacred, a necessary part of dreaming. In this way, Pendleton's subconscious cartography teaches us something gentle but profound, that understanding doesn't always mean solving. Sometimes it means accepting the mystery, finding comfort in not knowing. Adventure Time invites us to drift through the landscape of its creator's mind, not as explorers seeking treasure, but as dreamers willing to listen. Every hill and cloud hums with quiet meaning. Every silence is full of life. And maybe that's what makes Pendleton Ward's dream so timeless. It doesn't belong to logic or chronology, but to emotion. Ooo feels less like a story we watch and more like a feeling we remember something we once dreamed long ago, now shared through his imagination. As the map of this subconscious world unfolds even further, we begin to see the connective tissue, the invisible lines that link one emotional country to another. Pendleton Ward's imagination moves like a river, flowing effortlessly from one dream into the next. The strange part is that the flow feels natural. No matter how wild or surreal the moment, it never breaks the quiet internal rhythm. That's because Ward's stories come from a place beneath reason, where symbols replace explanations and feeling becomes the compass. If the Candy Kingdom is the heart, the Ice Kingdom, the mind and grief, and the Fire Kingdom, the pulse of passion, then the rest of Ooo feels like the hidden corners of thought, those quiet valleys where the subconscious goes to rest. The treehouse, where Finn and Jake live, sits at the center of it all, like a point of balance between dream and waking life. It's cozy, cluttered, filled with relics from past adventures, but more than that, it's a place of pause. The treehouse is the dreaming mind's hearth where the fragments of experience settle for a moment before drifting back into motion. In many ways, this is Pendleton Ward's own dream home. It's where creativity and comfort meet, where the strange and the familiar coexist. Just as the treehouse overlooks the vast lands of Ooo, Ward himself seemed to stand at the edge of his own imagination, watching the tides of thought and emotion swirl beneath him. The space he created is not just physical, but spiritual. It's a reminder that even in the wildest imagination, we all crave a center, a quiet place to return to when the dreams grow too loud. That balance between chaos and calm defines the cartography of Ward's subconscious. For every monstrous being that rises in Ooo like the Lich, the embodiment of pure decay, there's always something tender nearby, waiting to soothe the edges. The Lich represents the void at the center of all things, that haunting awareness of mortality and nothingness. But even he exists within the dream's logic. He is not an invader, but a natural part of the cycle. Death, destruction, endings. These are as essential to the subconscious as love and laughter. Ward's universe doesn't reject darkness. It integrates it, lets it dissolve into the larger current. That's what makes the show's emotional landscape so healing. In dreams, we often encounter fears not to defeat them, but to understand them. Pendleton's storytelling mirrors that journey. He invites his viewers to face uncertainty without panic, to witness sadness without despair. When Finn cries, when Marceline sings, when bubblegum breaks under the weight of her perfectionism, those moments remind us that feeling deeply is not weakness. It's navigation. It's how the dreamer finds direction in the dark. Music plays a quiet but powerful role in this navigation. The songs of Adventure Time often sound simple, gentle strums, soft voices, lullaby-like repetition, yet they carry immense emotional weight. They are the subconscious speaking directly, bypassing logic altogether. Pendleton understood that a few tender words sung softly could express what paragraphs of dialogue could not. Songs like Everything Stays, I'm Just Your Problem, or Remember You are pure subconscious moments, bridges between memory and forgiveness, pain and peace. Each melody lingers like the echo of a half-forgotten dream, comforting even when it hurts. You can sense Ward's creative spirit in that musical softness. He doesn't force resolution. He allows emotion to unfold naturally, like breath. This patience gives Adventure Time its meditative quality. Even when characters face monumental events, wars, prophecies, cosmic revelations, the storytelling never loses its stillness. It's as if the dream itself understands that everything returns to calm eventually. Like the subconscious after a long night of vivid dreaming, Ooo always finds its way back to silence. And in that silence, meaning blossoms. Pendleton Ward's world suggests that the subconscious is not a place of confusion, but of connection. The strange creatures, the floating kingdoms, the fractured timelines, all of them echo the way thoughts connect in our own minds. A memory leads to a dream leads to an idea, and the idea becomes a new world entirely. Ooo is the subconscious externalized, but it's also universal. It belongs to every dreamer who's ever wondered what their own mind looks like on the inside. If you pay close attention, you'll notice how characters drift in and out of each other's stories, like recurring motifs in a symphony. The same way dreams reuse faces and places. Adventure Time reuses symbols, crowns, swords, gems, portals. They shift meaning depending on who holds them, reminding us that truth in the subconscious is fluid. The crown can be both salvation and curse. The sword can free or wound. Ward never locks symbols into one definition. He lets them breathe. This openness is what gives his dream world its depth. It's not a puzzle to solve, it's a feeling to experience. And maybe that's why Adventure Time feels so personal to so many people. Each viewer maps their own subconscious onto Ooo. For one person, the Ice King's loneliness might feel like their own quiet ache. For another, Marceline's songs might echo their memories of childhood. Pendleton's world becomes a mirror, each reflection shaped by whoever gazes into it. In that sense, the cartography of the subconscious isn't just his creation, it's shared. We are all co-dreamers of Ooo, tracing our own emotional geography through his. As the dream deepens, one truth becomes clear. Pendleton Ward's subconscious isn't just a private landscape. It's an invitation, an open sky for every wandering soul who still believes that imagination can heal what time has broken. As we come to the quieter stretch of this journey through the subconscious, the map of Ooo begins to reveal something more profound, not just the dreamer's mind, but the act of dreaming itself. Pendleton Ward's art doesn't separate creator from creation. Instead, it lets them flow into each other until the border disappears. When Finn wonders who he truly is, or when Jake drifts into surreal dreamscapes that reflect his own uncertainties, it feels like Pendleton's own inner voice surfacing gently through them. He dreamed characters who, in turn, began to dream him back. That's the beautiful paradox of Adventure Time. It is both deeply personal and infinitely shared. Ward's subconscious spilled out into animation, and then into the subconscious of millions of viewers. We each carry a piece of that dream now, reimagined through our own experiences. It's a quiet kind of immortality, not the loud, heroic kind, but the gentle persistence of feeling. Even after the show's end, its world keeps breathing, not just in art and fan stories, but in the way it has subtly altered the emotional language of those who loved it. When you look closely, you notice that the geography of Ooo isn't bound by space at all. It's temporal, shaped by memory, by cycles of growth and forgetting. Pendleton's storytelling often returns to this idea of circular time. Characters evolve and regress, lose and rediscover themselves, die and are reborn through different versions. Dreams, after all, rarely move forward. They move inward, spiraling around the same truths until they become clear. Ward's subconscious map follows that motion. The landscape shifts with understanding, not with time. The clearest example of this might be Finn's relationship with the world around him. His adventures seem endless, yet each one quietly adds to his emotional map. At first, he sees Ooo as a playground of quests and monsters. But as he grows older, he begins to sense the underlying sadness, the quiet ache of impermanence. By the final seasons, Finn's journeys are no longer about slaying foes or collecting treasures. They become meditations on forgiveness, on love, on letting go. The world hasn't changed. His perception of it has. That shift mirrors the process of a dreamer gaining lucidity, realizing that every strange image is a reflection of self. In this way, Pendleton's cartography of the subconscious becomes a philosophy. It tells us that imagination is not an escape from reality, but a way to understand it. The monsters and kingdoms, the gods and ghosts, they're metaphors for emotions we all carry. When we laugh at Jake's silliness or feel our heart break for Simon, we're not just reacting to fiction. We're recognizing pieces of our own internal world. Ward's dream gives us permission to feel deeply without needing to define or fix those feelings. It's okay for joy and sorrow to coexist. It's okay for mystery to remain unsolved. And perhaps that's why Adventure Time never truly ends. Even when its story reaches a conclusion, its energy lingers like a dream you keep returning to half awake. Ward's universe is built on the acceptance of impermanence. Every episode, no matter how wild, eventually dissolves into silence, into the next dream. This mirrors the way creative minds work. Ideas appear, shimmer for a while, and then drift away to make room for new ones. The subconscious doesn't cling, it flows. Pendleton himself once spoke about his difficulty with the pressures of constant creation. He described the need to step back, to find peace outside of production, and in a strange, poetic way that mirrors the dream logic of his world. The dreamer, too, must sometimes wake to rest. The map he drew, this vast emotional terrain, continues to grow without him, carried forward by others. The subconscious never stops dreaming, even when the dreamer sleeps. In that sense, Adventure Time feels less like a show and more like a shared lucid dream, one that invites its viewers to navigate their own inner maps. Some of us might wander through the forests of childhood nostalgia. Others might stand in the frozen halls of memory or bask in the glowing warmth of love's renewal. The beauty is that Ooo allows for all of it. It's a world where the subconscious is safe to explore, where every fear can be hugged, every loss can be sung into meaning. And so, as we trace the final lines of this invisible map, we realize that Pendleton Ward's greatest creation wasn't just the Land of Ooo. It was a space of emotional freedom, a permission slip to dream without fear, to create without logic, to wander without needing an end. His subconscious became a compass for all who seek gentleness in the unknown. When you close your eyes tonight and let your own thoughts drift, you might find yourself walking through Ooo without meaning to. Maybe you'll see a tower of ice shimmering on the horizon, or hear the faint hum of Marceline's bass echoing over a candy-colored field. Maybe you'll sit beneath Finn and Jake's treehouse, feeling the wind hum softly through its leaves. These are the landmarks of Ward's dream, now folded into your own. The cartography of the subconscious is endless. Each of us holds a fragment of it. Pendleton Ward simply showed us how to read it. He didn't build walls between the rational and the irrational, between story and emotion. He built bridges delicate, glowing, full of wonder. And somewhere, beyond the veil of waking and sleeping, the dream of Ooo continues to expand, a landscape of compassion, a living map of feeling, a quiet, eternal reminder that imagination is just another word for the soul exploring itself. As we continue our gentle journey through Pendleton Ward's universe, we arrive at a curious part of Ooo, a place where logic bends, where words and images twist, and where meaning often hides in plain sight. This is the territory of the absurd, the domain where truth takes on forms so strange and whimsical that our waking minds might question them, but our hearts recognize them as real. Ward's genius lies not in hiding meaning, but in speaking it softly through absurdity. When you watch Adventure Time, you quickly notice that it operates in a language all its own. The characters speak in ways that sometimes make sense, and other times seem to contradict themselves entirely. A donut might deliver profound advice. A sentient piece of furniture may hold the key to a lesson about love or loss. Words, songs, and actions flow with a dreamlike looseness, and yet, if you listen closely, you can hear the hidden truths threading through them. Pendleton Ward understood that sometimes honesty is found not in statements of fact, but in the quiet resonance of the ridiculous. Absurdity in Ward's world is never shallow. It is a mirror to the inner workings of the mind. Dreams themselves operate this way. A cat may speak, as if it has known eternity. A tower may sprout wings. A character may suddenly change shape. These moments feel nonsensical at first, yet they carry emotional weight that logic alone cannot convey. In this way, Ooo becomes a place where the subconscious can speak freely, unbound by the rules of the conscious world. The humor, the oddity, the sheer improbability are all part of the translation of internal experience into story. Take, for instance, the Ice King. His dialogue often ranges from hilarious to incomprehensible, peppered with whimsical rhymes and abrupt declarations. And yet, in his absurdity, there is profound truth. He is a portrait of loneliness, grief, and the desperate desire for connection. When he rants about penguins or sings off-key, he is not just being comical. He is revealing, in the only way he can, the deep ache of being trapped inside one's own mind. Pendleton uses absurd speech to illuminate the subtleties of human emotion. Sometimes nonsense is the purest honesty. The same principle applies to the world itself. Ooo operates under rules that constantly shift. Trees walk, candy grows, floating islands appear without explanation. This instability is not carelessness. It is a deliberate choice, a narrative device that mirrors the nature of thought. Thoughts are rarely linear. They are associative, looping, unpredictable. Ward's absurd landscapes echo the way our minds create connections between seemingly unrelated ideas, turning fragments of memory into coherent feeling without needing rigid logic. Absurd truths appear in the show's objects as well. Jake's stretchy powers, BMO's sentience, the transformative properties of magical swords, these are more than just fantastical devices. They are metaphors for flexibility, for the fluidity of identity and experience. When Finn's sword changes form, or when Jake reshapes himself, we are witnessing, in playful terms, the mutable nature of life and self. The absurdity is the vehicle for understanding that which cannot be pinned down in conventional terms. Ward's use of songs exemplifies this principle even further. They can be funny, silly, or bizarre, but beneath the surface lies a delicate emotional logic. Consider the Fry song, or All Gummed Up Inside. Playful, simple melodies that encapsulate grief, longing, or introspection. These moments demonstrate that absurdity is not distraction. It is a vessel for emotional resonance. The ridiculous becomes sincere, the comical becomes moving, and the whimsical becomes profound. In the same way, side characters and minor events often carry hidden wisdom. Tree Trunks, with her unassuming manner and love of pie, teaches acceptance of one's own vulnerabilities. Peppermint Butler, a small, sweet figure, houses a darker, mysterious depth. The absurdity of their forms disguises the truth they carry. Pendleton Ward's genius was knowing that lessons do not need to be spelled out. They can appear disguised as humor, as oddity, as pure nonsense, yet still lodge themselves gently into the heart. Ward's dialogue often reflects the rhythm of natural thought. He allows pauses, tangents, and non sequiturs, giving space for reflection. Characters speak in ways that mimic the wandering mind, sometimes clear, sometimes unclear, but always expressive. In this, Ooo mirrors the fluidity of consciousness itself. To inhabit its world is to learn a new form of language, one that values feeling over logic, intuition over explanation. Absurdity becomes grammar, emotion becomes syntax, and the dreamer learns to read without expecting a conventional map. Even the show's plots embrace this linguistic philosophy. Events unfold in ways that surprise the audience, yet feel inevitable once they arrive. The resolution is often unconventional, sometimes unresolved, but always emotionally true. Ward understood that life itself does not operate with perfect logic, and so he let his storytelling echo that natural unpredictability. The world of Ooo, in all its absurd glory, is a testament to the way truth can hide within layers of the unexpected, revealed only to those willing to pay attention. And as we pay attention, a pattern emerges. The absurd, when carefully observed, reveals a deeper consistency. It becomes a language, not of reason, but of insight. Characters, objects, and landscapes operate in a symbolic syntax, communicating truths that our conscious minds might otherwise ignore. Through humor, surrealism, and whimsy, Pendleton Ward translated the untranslatable, the subtleties of joy, sorrow, longing, and wonder, into forms accessible to anyone willing to dream along. This is the gentle power of the absurd. It softens the harsh edges of reality, yet illuminates truths that are often too delicate for straightforward exposition. The laughter, the oddities, the nonsense, they are not distractions. They are keys to understanding the emotional and spiritual logic that underpins Pendleton Ward's universe. In Ooo, nothing is meaningless. Even chaos carries intention. Even the ridiculous carries wisdom. As we drift further into the language of absurd truths, it becomes clear that Pendleton Ward's genius lies not only in what he creates, but in how he creates it. Every strange moment, every odd expression, every nonsensical turn of events has a rhythm, a cadence that mirrors the way our subconscious communicates with us. Dreams often make sense only when we feel them, not when we try to explain them. Ward's storytelling mirrors this logic, encouraging us to experience meaning rather than define it. Consider the characters' relationships. They are rarely straightforward. Finn and Jake, best friends and adventurers, often operate in chaos and contradiction. Finn's moral clarity sometimes clashes with Jake's free-flowing instincts. Princess Bubblegum's intelligence can feel cold, yet her compassion shines in unexpected ways. Marceline's mischief hides layers of vulnerability and history. These contradictions, often played for humor, are in fact faithful translations of human complexity. Absurdity allows these layers to coexist without needing simplification. The truth of a person is rarely linear, and Ooo respects that. Even minor details in the world serve this philosophy. A floating island might appear for a single episode, unexplained, yet it leaves an emotional impression. A talking piece of furniture may offer advice, cryptic yet profound. Ward seems to understand that our subconscious often delivers insights in fragments, in fleeting images, in small, almost random moments. Ooo is filled with these fragments, tiny absurdities that lodge in the mind and, over time, reveal patterns of meaning. The show also delights in breaking expectations, yet it does so with gentleness. An episode may begin as a lighthearted adventure, only to reveal deeper emotional truths by the end. Characters often fail, falter, or misunderstand, but the failures themselves become lessons. Through absurdity, Pendleton demonstrates that truth is not always solemn or straightforward. Sometimes it hides in humor, in missteps, in moments that seem inconsequential until their emotional resonance is felt. Take, for example, the lumpy space princess. Her dramatic, over-the-top personality and melodramatic speech might seem entirely comical at first glance, yet she embodies very real experiences: insecurity, longing for attention, and the human desire to be understood. The absurdity of her expressions does not diminish these truths. It amplifies them. Through exaggeration, the subtle emotions are highlighted. Ward's subconscious storytelling relies on this interplay between humor and sincerity, showing us that absurdity can be a vessel for empathy. Magic itself functions similarly. Spells, artifacts, and mystical beings often behave unpredictably, yet their consequences reflect emotional or moral truths. The unpredictability mirrors the subconscious logic of cause and effect. Actions ripple in ways that defy linear reasoning, yet they feel inevitable once experienced. This mirrors the rhythm of real life, where consequences often emerge in unexpected ways, revealing lessons we might not have consciously anticipated. Ward's language of absurd truths also relies heavily on sensory engagement. Colors, sounds, and shapes all communicate ideas alongside dialogue. The visuals in Adventure Time are never decorative alone. They are part of the syntax. A glowing sword, a drifting cloud, a landscape of jagged candy, each conveys feeling and meaning. Absurdity permeates the aesthetic, reinforcing the idea that truth is multi-layered, perceived not only with the mind, but with the heart. In this way, Ward's dream logic is inclusive. It doesn't demand comprehension, only attention. The viewer learns to read emotion and meaning in unconventional ways. We notice patterns, feel implications, and sense connections that are not immediately explained. It's a gentle exercise in empathy, training us to perceive truth beyond the literal. Through absurdity, Pendleton Ward invites us to trust our instincts, to follow feelings, and to accept that some truths are understood intuitively rather than rationally. And in the quiet moments between chaos and humor, the absurd becomes almost meditative. A scene may linger on a character's strange behavior, or a nonsensical landscape, allowing us to absorb it fully. It is in these pauses, these gentle lulls, that the language of absurd truths shows its subtle power. Meaning seeps in slowly like a soft tide, touching the corners of understanding we didn't know were waiting. Absurdity in Ward's hands is never frivolous. It is a gentle, persistent whisper from the subconscious. It teaches us that life itself can be nonsensical, yet full of resonance. It reassures us that not all truths need to be explained, and that sometimes the most profound insights arrive wearing the mask of the ridiculous. In Ooo, laughter and revelation are inseparable companions, coexisting in a quiet dance of perception. As we linger in the territory of absurd truths, it becomes clear that Pendleton Ward's universe teaches us to honor the unexpected as a form of guidance. In Ooo, nothing is entirely random. Every whimsical twist, every oddball character, every nonsensical event is deliberately placed to mirror the workings of the human mind. It is a world where intuition is more reliable than reason, where feelings take precedence over rigid logic, and where the absurd becomes a kind of quiet revelation. Consider how recurring motifs in the show carry layered meaning. Crowns, swords, gems, and magical objects often reappear, their significance shifting depending on context. A sword might symbolize courage one moment and a heavy responsibility the next. The crown could be a tool of power or a representation of burden. The absurdity of these transformations does not diminish their meaning, it illuminates it. Ward's storytelling teaches that truth is not static. It evolves, often in strange and unpredictable ways, much like the subconscious itself. The absurdity also allows for emotional elasticity. Characters can express deep grief, intense joy, or complex moral dilemmas, in ways that would seem exaggerated or ridiculous in a more literal context. Marceline might playfully torment Finn, or the Ice King might act in ways that seem nonsensical. Yet beneath these actions lies vulnerability and profound honesty. Absurdity becomes a lens through which difficult emotions are made accessible. It softens the edges of pain and invites reflection without overwhelming the dreamer. Humor in Ooo functions as a subtle teacher. It reframes the way we perceive conflict, loss, and change. When Finn's quest for justice collides with Jake's laissez-faire approach, the humor in their interaction mirrors the absurdities of real life, the ways our intentions and reality rarely align perfectly. By exaggerating these moments into the surreal, Pendleton Ward offers lessons in perspective. The absurd is not meaningless. It is a carefully crafted tool that helps us understand the delicate patterns of living and feeling. Ward's absurd truths often emerge through dialogue that defies expectation. Characters speak in rhythms and tones that reflect dream logic. Statements may loop, rhyme, or contradict themselves. A character might deliver a poignant truth in the midst of a seemingly unrelated rant, or a moment of silence may carry more weight than any words. In this way, absurdity becomes a language, teaching us to listen differently to find meaning, not in clarity alone, but in nuance, in tone, in implication. Even the visual composition of Ooo communicates in this language. The world itself seems to laugh at linearity. Trees might float, mountains might bend, skies may shift color mid-episode. The landscapes echo the mind's ability to bend reality to fit emotional need. In dreams, a place can feel vast and intimate at the same time. Ward captures that duality in his imagery. Absurdity, then, is both literal and symbolic, grounding the viewer in feeling while allowing the mind to roam freely. Music continues to play a critical role in translating absurdity into truth. Songs in Adventure Time often carry dual meaning, whimsical on the surface, resonant underneath. They are emotional shorthand, conveying subtleties that dialogue alone cannot. A song might be silly and light-hearted, yet beneath it lies a reflection on loss, love, or identity. The absurdity of the melody allows the truth to slip past the defenses of reason, reaching directly into the heart. The juxtaposition of absurdity with sincerity creates a kind of emotional resonance unique to Ward's storytelling. It allows him to explore heavy themes without darkening the space unnecessarily. Death, isolation, longing, and fear are present in Ooo, but always tempered by humor, whimsy, and unpredictability. Absurdity becomes a protective layer, a way to engage with reality's most challenging aspect without being overwhelmed. It reminds us that pain and joy, seriousness and play can coexist harmoniously. This approach also reflects Ward's philosophy of creation itself. He embraced improvisation, intuition, and the unexpected in his artistic process. Episodes often evolved organically, with writers and animators contributing ideas that might initially seem nonsensical. Yet through collaborative intuition, these ideas became part of the cohesive, emotional language of Ooo. The absurd, therefore, is not accidental. It is carefully curated to guide the subconscious toward insight and understanding. Even the minor characters exemplify this principle. Lumpy Space, Princess, with her dramatic flair and nonsensical rants, reveals emotional truths about insecurity and self-expression. Tree Trunks, a tiny elephant with a passion for pie, teaches us about courage and kindness in the most understated way. Peppermint Butler, sweet and unassuming, carries layers of darkness that challenge our perception of morality. Ward's absurdity allows all these characters to exist fully, blending humor, sincerity, and depth seamlessly. Ward's dream logic often mirrors the non-linear associative thinking of the subconscious. Ideas collide, overlap, and re-emerge transformed. An episode might begin as a simple quest, yet it spirals into explorations of identity, morality, and mortality. The absurdity of the journey is essential, for it mirrors the way the mind itself navigates emotional and cognitive landscapes. In Ooo, the improbable is not impossible. It is inevitable, because it reflects the truth of human experience as perceived in dreams. Ultimately, the language of absurd truths in Adventure Time invites us to reconsider our understanding of meaning. Truth is not always found in straightforward statements or rigid logic. It emerges through laughter, through the improbable, through moments that feel nonsensical until we allow ourselves to feel them fully. Pendleton Ward's genius was to create a universe where absurdity and sincerity coexist, where emotional depth is expressed through the playful, the surreal, and the whimsical. And in listening to this language, we begin to see that absurdity is not a detour from truth, but a direct path to it. It teaches us patience, attentiveness, and openness to complexity. It invites us to explore the hidden corners of emotion, the unexpected twists of thought, and the gentle wisdom of the subconscious. In Ooo, absurdity is a teacher, and truth is its gift. As we wander further into this world of absurd truths, it becomes evident that Pendleton Ward's mastery lies in balancing chaos and care. In Ooo, nothing is ever purely arbitrary. Even the most ridiculous event carries a subtle echo of meaning, like the faint resonance of a bell vibrating long after it has been struck. Ward's absurdity is never frivolous. It is a conduit for understanding, a way to illuminate the emotional truths that are too delicate or complex to be stated plainly. Laughter, whimsy, and nonsense become tools for gentle insight. Take, for instance, the interplay between characters and setting. A seemingly nonsensical adventure often mirrors the inner emotional state of the characters. When Finn and Jake wander into a bizarre, shifting forest, it is not only a visual delight, it is a reflection of confusion, curiosity, or unresolved feelings. The environment itself becomes a character, guiding the subconscious journey in ways words alone cannot achieve. The absurdity of the world allows the mind to engage with complex ideas without the burden of strict logic. It invites the dreamer to feel first, to interpret later, if at all. Ward also uses repetition and rhythm to embed meaning within absurdity. Phrases, gestures, or scenarios recur in slightly altered forms like echoes in a vast, dreamlike canyon. The repetition is not redundancy. It is a technique of resonance. In dreams, ideas often return, slightly reshaped, until the subconscious begins to recognize their significance. Similarly, in Ooo, running gags, musical motifs, or visual quirks serve as emotional signposts. They are absurd on the surface, but when experienced over time, they reveal subtle patterns of connection and growth. The show's narrative elasticity further amplifies this effect. Episodes do not always resolve neatly, yet they leave impressions that linger. Finn may fail to complete a quest. Jake may misinterpret a situation, and yet the emotional truth of the experience remains intact. Ward's absurdity respects the intelligence of the subconscious, trusting that meaning is often absorbed rather than explicitly stated. The unpredictability of events mirrors the unpredictability of life itself, reinforcing the idea that truth is not always linear, but cyclical, associative, and experiential. Absurdity also functions as a bridge between joy and sorrow, laughter and reflection. Characters often experience profound emotions in the midst of ridiculous circumstances. A magical donut may deliver life-changing advice, or a dancing ghost may embody heartbreak. This duality reflects the way our own minds navigate emotion. Moments of levity can coexist with profound insight. Ward's language of absurd truths allows us to witness this balance without judgment, creating a safe space to explore complex feelings while still smiling at their absurd presentation. Even the show's visual symbolism reinforces this philosophy. The exaggerated, cartoonish designs of Oo's creatures and landscapes are not mere stylistic choices. They serve as emotional cues. Colors, shapes, and movement convey feeling as effectively as dialogue. A floating island, a twisting candy tree, or a sky filled with shifting constellations communicates instability, wonder, or longing. In dreams, imagery often speaks more clearly than words, and Ward's artistry mirrors this principle perfectly. The absurdity of visual presentation becomes an intuitive language, one that resonates directly with the subconscious. Songs continue to act as emotional amplifiers within this system. The melodies in Adventure Time often carry dual significance, playful on the surface, but emotionally layered underneath. A seemingly nonsensical tune may capture the essence of longing, regret, or joy, bypassing rational analysis and touching the heart directly. Ward's use of music reflects his understanding that the subconscious speaks in rhythm, melody, and tone. Absurdity, when paired with music, becomes a vessel for truth that transcends conventional narrative. The minor characters in Ooo exemplify the same principles. Lumpy Space, Princess, Tree Trunks, and Peppermint Butler operate in heightened, absurd ways, yet each carries emotional resonance that is immediately recognizable. Lumpy Space Princess teaches us about vulnerability beneath bravado. Tree Trunks models quiet courage in the face of risk. Peppermint Butler embodies the complexity of morality and curiosity. Their absurd presentations allow their emotional truths to shine more brightly than realism ever could. Ward's absurdity also cultivates a meditative patience in the audience. The viewer is encouraged to linger, to notice subtle shifts in tone, to allow meaning to emerge gradually. In a world obsessed with rapid resolution and overt exposition, this is a rare and calming invitation. The absurd becomes a form of guidance, teaching the audience to pay attention, to feel, and to trust that understanding can arrive in its own time. By the time we fully absorb Oo's language of absurd truths, we begin to understand his profound wisdom. The show suggests that life itself operates under a similar principle. Meaning is not always explicit. Truth often hides in unexpected forms. Humor, play, and absurdity are not distractions from reality. They are windows into it. Pendleton Ward's universe demonstrates that laughter can coexist with grief. Nonsense can reveal insight, and whimsy can be a pathway to wisdom. And perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this approach is its accessibility. The absurd speaks to viewers of all ages, all backgrounds, all levels of experience. It does not demand prior knowledge or intellectual rigor. Instead, it gently invites us to engage with our own subconscious, to explore our emotions, and to embrace the joy of uncertainty. Ward's genius lies in this universality, the ability to communicate profound truths through the playful and the surreal, to create a language that the heart recognizes even when the mind struggles to follow. In the quiet spaces between the laughter, the surreal imagery, and the musical notes, the viewer begins to internalize a subtle lesson. The truth need not be serious, that insight often arrives disguised, and that the absurd can be profoundly comforting. Ooo becomes more than a cartoon world. It becomes a mirror for our own internal landscapes, a gentle guide through the labyrinth of feeling, a reminder that understanding sometimes comes most clearly when we stop trying to make sense of everything. The language of absurd truths is thus both playful and sacred. It teaches that meaning can be hidden in whimsy, that wisdom can wear the mask of silliness, and that the heart often recognizes what the mind cannot yet grasp. In Pendleton Ward's universe, nonsense is never meaningless. Every oddity, every twist, every impossible event carries resonance, waiting to be discovered by those willing to dream, to feel, and to listen. As we drift gently onward through the universe of Pendleton Ward, we arrive at a part of Ooo that feels softer, quieter, and yet infinitely deep. This is the space where his philosophy quietly hums beneath the laughter, the absurdity, and the vibrant adventures. It is a philosophy not proclaimed loudly, but whispered softly, inviting reflection, patience, and a kind of gentle understanding. In Ooo, life's truths are not shouted from mountaintops. They are observed in the sway of trees, the ripple of water, and the subtle expressions of those we meet along the way. Ward's quiet philosophy is rooted in the belief that existence itself is both mysterious and magical, and that our lives are to be experienced with curiosity rather than control. Ooo embodies this principle in every creaking bridge, in every floating island, in every silent moment of wonder. There is an acceptance of impermanence here. Nothing remains static. Seasons change, friendships evolve, cities crumble, and yet the world continues, resilient and tender. The quiet wisdom of Ooo is that life flows, and our role is to move with it rather than resist it. One of the most striking aspects of this philosophy is how Ward treats emotion. In Ooo, feelings are never trivialized. Joy, grief, love, loneliness, and longing are all given room to exist fully. Finn's heartbreaks, Marceline's nostalgia, Bubblegum's quiet burdens. These are not plot devices. They are meditations on the human condition, presented in a way that feels safe, approachable, and real. The quiet philosophy here is one of gentle observation. To notice, to feel, and to honor emotion without forcing resolution. It is an invitation to witness life in all its shades without needing to immediately fix or explain it. This philosophy extends to relationships as well. The bonds between characters often unfold slowly, organically, and sometimes imperfectly. Finn and Jake's friendship is both playful and profound, filled with small acts of care and moments of honest tension. Princess Bubblegum and Marceline share history, conflict, and love, evolving gradually over time. Ward's work shows that meaningful connection is rarely instantaneous or flawless. It grows quietly, sometimes through contradiction, sometimes through shared silence, sometimes through the unspoken understanding that comes only with patience. Ward's philosophy also emphasizes kindness and empathy, often in subtle ways. Characters are rarely purely good or purely evil. They exist in the gray spaces of motivation, circumstance, and emotion. Even the Ice King, with all his mischief and misunderstanding, is rendered sympathetic through the lens of history, memory, and loneliness. The quiet message is that a understanding is often more powerful than judgment, that seeing someone's pain or perspective can transform conflict into compassion. Ooo becomes a world where empathy is not a moral lecture, but a lived experience, soft and pervasive. Nature in Ooo further reflects Ward's contemplative philosophy. The forests, mountains, rivers, and skies are not merely backdrops. They are active participants in the emotional landscape, responding to and reflecting the characters' inner lives. A quiet snowfall, a gentle sunrise, or the stillness of a candy field communicates a mood, an idea, or a truth that words cannot fully capture. Ward encourages the viewer to attune to these subtleties, to notice the gentle rhythm of the world, and to find meaning in the quiet spaces between action and dialogue. This philosophy also embraces imperfection as a natural part of life. Characters fail, stumble, and make mistakes, but these moments are treated with patience and gentle humor rather than harsh punishment. Finn loses battles, makes poor choices, and sometimes fails those he loves, yet these experiences are never framed as shameful. Instead, they are opportunities for growth and reflection. The quiet lesson is that being human, or even being a hero, does not require perfection. It requires awareness, compassion, and a willingness to continue moving forward, even when the path is uncertain. Ward's narrative pacing itself reflects this philosophy. Episodes often linger in moments of quiet reflection, pause, or gentle exploration. Time in Ooo is elastic. It stretches and contracts in accordance with emotional resonance rather than plot necessity. This allows the viewer to breathe alongside the characters, to inhabit the world with calm and presence. The philosophy embedded in pacing teaches us that life does not need to be rushed, that value exists in stillness as much as in action, and that reflection is a form of understanding. There is also a spiritual undercurrent to Ward's quiet philosophy. Magic, gods, spirits, and cosmic forces populate Ooo, yet they rarely dominate the narrative through fear or spectacle. Instead, they exist as aspects of the world that demand attention, respect, and wonder. Ward's dream logic treats the mystical not as a source of control, but as a space for observation and reverence. The quiet wisdom here is that there is something larger than ourselves, mysterious and beautiful, and that acknowledging it can inspire awe without demanding certainty. Even humor in Ward's work is infused with philosophical depth. Jokes and absurd situations are never just for entertainment. They are a lens through which we are invited to perceive life differently, to see that seriousness and levity are intertwined, and that the ability to laugh at the unexpected is a sign of resilience and grace. The quiet philosophy here teaches acceptance. The world will always hold surprises, challenges, and contradictions, and meeting them with openness and humor allows us to navigate them more gently. Another key element is the acceptance of change and impermanence. Characters grow older, relationships evolve, and the landscape of Ooo itself is dynamic. Magic and technology rise and fall, kingdoms transform, and memories fade or resurface in unexpected ways. Ward's storytelling gently communicates that impermanence is not loss alone, but part of a natural rhythm. Life in all its impermanence is still worthy of attention, curiosity, and tenderness. The quiet philosophy whispers that to live fully, we must engage with change rather than resist it. This philosophy manifests in the subtle moral lessons embedded within the stories. Unlike conventional moralizing, Ward's approach is observational rather than prescriptive. He presents choices, consequences, and emotional truths without demanding agreement. The viewer learns by witnessing, by absorbing the flow of cause and effect, and by connecting emotionally to the character's experiences. It is a philosophy of gentle guidance, showing rather than telling, suggesting rather than commanding, inviting reflection rather than enforcing doctrine. And perhaps the most comforting aspect of this quiet philosophy is its accessibility. It does not require intellectual rigor or moral perfection to appreciate. Ward's worldview is available to anyone who can feel, who can notice, who can pause and observe. In this sense, Ooo is not just a fictional universe, but a guide to living softly, attentively, and empathetically. Its lessons are embedded in the rhythm of storytelling, the texture of landscapes, the gentle humor, and the tender portrayal of characters navigating complexity with courage and care. The quiet philosophy of Pendleton Ward is ultimately about coexistence of joy and sorrow, of absurdity and truth, of motion and stillness. It is about recognizing the vastness of experience without being overwhelmed. It is about honoring imperfection, valuing empathy and allowing magic, wonder, and mystery to exist alongside everyday life. Ooo becomes a mirror for how we might move gently through our own worlds, noticing both the extraordinary and the mundane with equal care. As we continue to explore the quiet philosophy woven through Ooo, it becomes clear that Pendleton Ward's vision encourages a kind of mindful presence. The philosophy does not preach or dictate. Instead, it invites observation, a way of moving through the world with attention to both the subtle and the profound. In Ooo, small details matter: the sway of a tree, the glimmer of a magical artifact, the expression of a character in a fleeting moment. These quiet observations form the backbone of understanding, reminding us that meaning often resides in what is gently noticed rather than loudly proclaimed. This approach also emphasizes patience. Many lessons in Ooo do not arrive immediately. Finn may struggle for an entire episode, or even seasons, before truly understanding a truth about himself or his world. Similarly, relationships unfold gradually, and personal growth often appears in the smallest of gestures rather than grand declarations. Ward's quiet philosophy teaches us that life itself is a patient teacher. Insight is cumulative, often revealed slowly, and the act of waiting, observing, and feeling is as valuable as the revelation itself. Interconnectedness is another pillar of Ward's subtle philosophy. The actions of one character ripple through the world, affecting others in ways that are sometimes visible and sometimes hidden. A seemingly minor choice may have profound consequences later, reflecting the interconnected nature of experience. Ooo is filled with these threads, gently linking characters, events, and locations. This web of relationships mirrors the way emotions, choices, and memories weave through our own lives, teaching us that everything exists in relation and that even small actions carry weight. The show's treatment of failure and imperfection also reflects Ward's philosophy. Characters often stumble or make mistakes, yet these moments are framed as natural and instructive rather than shameful. Finn loses battles, misjudges situations, and sometimes hurts those he loves unintentionally. Yet each error carries a lesson or opens a path to understanding. Ward's approach reassures the viewer that making mistakes is an essential part of growth. The quiet philosophy is one of compassion toward oneself and toward others, emphasizing that life is less about perfection and more about engagement, learning, and resilience. Even solitude is treated with nuance. Characters frequently experience moments of quiet introspection. Finn sits alone. Jake stretches into forms that allow him to contemplate. Marceline sings in empty rooms. These moments are not lonely in a purely negative sense. They are opportunities for reflection, for connection with self, and for emotional processing. Ward's philosophy validates these periods of solitude, showing that retreating inward can be as meaningful as outward action. Silence, stillness, and contemplation are as important as adventure and spectacle in the emotional landscape of Ooo. Magic and wonder, too, are interwoven with philosophy in subtle ways. Magical phenomena in Ooo are rarely used solely for spectacle. They often provide gentle guidance or create space for reflection. A magical artifact may alter perception. A mystical creature may provide insight without words, or a phenomenon in the environment may illuminate an emotional truth. These elements remind us that life contains mysteries that cannot be fully explained, but can be appreciated, observed, and learned from. Ward's quiet philosophy encourages awe and reverence, teaching that wonder itself has intrinsic value. Ward also presents the passage of time in ways that reinforce his philosophy. Episodes are not always linear, and characters often revisit past experiences or encounter echoes of memory and history. This approach mirrors the way Our minds process life, where past, present, and imagination intermingle. Time in Ooo is elastic, reflecting emotional rather than chronological truth. The quiet lesson is that life is not merely a sequence of events, but a tapestry of experiences, emotions, and reflections woven together across time. Community and cooperation are quietly celebrated as well. Even the most independent characters learn that connection, understanding, and empathy enrich their lives. Finn's adventures are often aided by friends, alliances, and unexpected collaborators. Ward emphasizes that while personal growth is vital, the support and presence of others create depth and resilience. The quiet philosophy underscores that life is shared and that cultivating connection and compassion is as meaningful as any personal achievement or heroic act. In Ooo, joy and sorrow coexist naturally. Characters laugh, play, and experience wonder even amidst grief or challenge. Ward presents life as layered and complex, where emotion is multifaceted and not always easily categorized. The philosophy encourages acceptance of this emotional richness, demonstrating that happiness and sadness are not opposites, but partners in the tapestry of experience. Observing and honoring these emotional rhythms is central to understanding Ward's vision of life. The quiet philosophy also manifests in the ethical subtleties of the show. Morality is rarely black and white. Characters make choices guided by empathy, curiosity, and circumstance rather than rigid codes. Even antagonists like the Ice King or the Lich are given context, history, and depth, illustrating that understanding is more nuanced than judgment. Ward teaches that compassion requires seeing beyond surface behavior to the complexities underneath, and that wisdom often involves patience, observation, and empathy rather than immediate evaluation. Ultimately, the quiet philosophy of Pendleton Ward is not something that can be summarized or memorized. It is a way of being attentive, gentle, reflective, and compassionate. It encourages the observer to move through life with curiosity, to honor impermanence, to embrace both absurdity and wonder, and to recognize the quiet significance of small, everyday moments. Ooo becomes a map not only of imagination, but of thoughtful, tender engagement with the world. As we move deeper into the quiet philosophy that pervades Ooo, it becomes clear that Pendleton Ward's approach is less about teaching through spectacle and more about guiding through subtlety. His universe demonstrates that wisdom does not always need to be pronounced. It can be absorbed, felt, and intuitively understood. The calm rhythms of Ooo, the gentle pacing of episodes, the quiet interludes between adventure and dialogue, the pauses that allow moments to breathe all cultivate an atmosphere in which reflection is natural. The viewer is encouraged to slow down, to notice, and to allow meaning to arise organically rather than being force-fed. One striking aspect of this philosophy is its treatment of growth. Characters in Ooo rarely experience instant transformation. Finn's journey, for example, is a long, winding process. He confronts moral ambiguity, emotional pain, and existential questions repeatedly across seasons. These experiences are presented without rush or artificial resolution. The quiet lesson is that personal development is incremental. True understanding comes from experience, observation, and repeated engagement rather than sudden insight. Ward's philosophy honors the patience required to grow. Relationships in Ooo further illustrate this quiet wisdom. Bonds between characters are layered, complex, and often imperfect. Friendships, romances, and alliances evolve gradually, marked by miscommunication, mistakes, reconciliation, and moments of pure empathy. This reflects Ward's understanding of human connection as dynamic and evolving rather than fixed. In Ooo, connection is nurtured through attention, care, and the willingness to engage with others' complexities. The quiet philosophy here is that the heart learns as much from gentle listening and observation as it does from grand gestures or heroic acts. Impermanence is another central tenet. The world of Ooo itself is mutable. Kingdoms rise and fall, landscapes shift, and characters age, change, or even die. Ward presents this impermanence without alarm or dramatization, suggesting that change is an inherent part of life's rhythm. A kingdom may crumble, but the inhabitants continue, adapt, and grow. A character may lose a loved one, yet memory, love, and learning persist. This perspective fosters a gentle acceptance of transience, teaching that impermanence is neither tragic nor to be feared, but acknowledged with presence and grace. The role of solitude in Ooo is equally profound. Characters often retreat into quiet moments for contemplation or introspection. Finn may wander alone in the forest. Jake may stretch into contemplative forms, and Marceline often reflects through music in private spaces. These moments of solitude are not portrayed as loneliness, but as necessary for emotional processing and self-understanding. Ward's philosophy validates introspection, reminding us that meaningful engagement with life requires time spent with oneself, observing, feeling, and learning quietly. Even conflict in Ooo is handled in a way that reflects this gentle wisdom. Battles and disagreements often carry emotional weight without becoming brutal or sensationalized. Antagonists are given depth and context, demonstrating that opposition is often rooted in complexity rather than malice. The Ice King's antics, for example, are underpinned by profound loneliness and loss. The Lich embodies existential threat, yet the narrative explores the consequences and moral intricacies of his actions. Ward's approach suggests that understanding and empathy are more valuable than punishment or immediate resolution. Conflict becomes a space for reflection and emotional growth. Ward's philosophy extends to the natural world of Ooo. Nature is alive, responsive, and often symbolic. A glowing forest may reflect curiosity, a vast desert may echo solitude, and a shifting sky may mirror internal turmoil. The environment is not merely a backdrop, it is an active participant in the emotional narrative. Observing the world with attention, appreciating its subtle signals, and moving in harmony with its rhythms is a recurring lesson. Ooo teaches that wisdom often arises from aligning with the quiet cues of the world, rather than imposing control over it. Magic, too, carries a gentle, philosophical weight. Magical artifacts, spells, and phenomena are rarely simply tools of power. They are catalysts for reflection, exploration, and insight. A magical object may reveal hidden aspects of a character's self. A spell may bring clarity or emotional resonance, and mystical beings often guide through observation rather than instruction. Ward's quiet philosophy encourages respect for the unknown and appreciation for life's inherent mysteries. The mystical is not fearsome. It is an invitation to wonder, to ponder, and to learn through gentle engagement. Humor remains an essential part of this philosophy, not as distraction, but as guidance. The absurd, the whimsical, and the playful moments serve as emotional relief while also carrying lessons about perspective. Laughter softens life's challenges and highlights the paradoxes and contradictions inherent in existence. Ward demonstrates that resilience is nurtured not only through courage or wisdom, but also through the ability to embrace joy, absurdity, and spontaneity alongside challenge and sorrow. Humor becomes a lens for emotional clarity, a quiet teacher of balance. Ultimately, the quiet philosophy of Pendleton Ward is an invitation. It is an invitation to move through life with attentiveness, to value emotional depth as much as action, and to approach both triumph and challenge with patience, empathy, and gentle curiosity. Ooo is not only a fantastical world of candy and adventure, it is a mirror for thoughtful living, a meditation on impermanence, connection, and wonder. Ward's philosophy teaches that meaning is woven through the small, quiet moments of life, and that observing, feeling, and reflecting can be as transformative as any grand adventure. As we settle deeper into the quiet philosophy of Pendleton Ward, it becomes apparent that his wisdom resides not in grand declarations, but in the soft, almost imperceptible rhythms of Ooo. Every episode, every character interaction, every silent pause carries meaning that whispers rather than shouts. The gentle cadence of storytelling encourages the viewer to slow down, to notice the subtleties of emotion, and to trust that understanding emerges in its own time. There is no rush, no forced resolution, only the patient unfolding of insight, as natural and inevitable as the sunrise. Ward's philosophy emphasizes the dignity of small moments. Ordinary experiences, sharing a meal, walking through the forest, singing a simple song, are imbued with significance. These moments remind us that life's value is often found in the everyday, in the quiet gestures that pass almost unnoticed. Tree trunks baking a pie, BMO tinkering with electronics, or Jake stretching to enjoy the view of the horizon may seem mundane, but within them lies a meditation on presence, mindfulness, and the beauty of simplicity. Ooo invites us to recognize that profound truths often arrive quietly, wrapped in the ordinary. The universe of Ooo is also a lesson in balance. Ward consistently juxtaposes joy with sorrow, chaos with calm, humor with melancholy. This duality mirrors the human experience, teaching that emotion is layered, complex, and multifaceted. Laughter and play coexist with grief and reflection, and one does not diminish the other. The quiet philosophy here is one of harmony, acknowledging the full spectrum of feeling without judgment, and understanding that each emotion serves a purpose in the broader rhythm of life. Ward also treats heroism with subtlety. Finn, Jake, and their friends are courageous, yet their heroism is not defined solely by action or conquest. It is expressed in kindness, patience, empathy, and the willingness to continue learning despite mistakes and setbacks. True bravery in Ooo is quiet and thoughtful, often invisible, yet deeply transformative. Through this lens, Ward's philosophy suggests that the quiet acts of compassion, understanding, and resilience are as heroic as any dramatic feat. The treatment of morality in Ooo further reflects Ward's gentle worldview. Characters are rarely wholly good or entirely bad. They exist in nuanced shades of intention and consequence. Even antagonists are given context, depth, and occasional sympathy. The Ice King's loneliness, the Lich's existential menace, and Peppermint Butler's morally ambiguous adventures are all handled with care, presenting morality as complex and situational rather than absolute. Ward's quiet philosophy encourages observation, empathy, and reflective judgment, allowing the audience to explore ethical nuance naturally rather than through forceful instruction. Impermanence remains a central thread in Ward's worldview. Kingdoms crumble, friendships evolve, memories fade, and characters change over time. Yet this transience is never framed as catastrophic. It is simply the natural rhythm of existence. Change is not feared, but accepted, observed, and integrated into the flow of life. Ooo teaches that embracing impermanence allows for growth, curiosity, and a deeper appreciation of the present moment. The quiet philosophy here is deeply comforting. Even as things pass or transform, the experiences, emotions, and connections we cultivate continue to resonate. Ward's handling of conflict reinforces this contemplative approach. Arguments, battles, and misunderstandings often carry layers of emotional truth. They are presented not as spectacles of violence or drama, but as opportunities for reflection, understanding, and resolution. The show encourages patience and discernment, showing that listening, empathy, and time are often more transformative than immediate action. In this way, Ward models a philosophy of engagement that even challenges can be approached gently, thoughtfully, and with respect for complexity. Magic and wonder permeate Ooo in a way that reflects curiosity and reverence. Magical artifacts, mystical creatures, and fantastical landscapes are not tools for dominance, but invitations to explore, observe, and learn. Ward's quiet philosophy frames wonder as an essential part of life, teaching that mystery itself carries lessons and that reverence for the unknown can inspire growth, humility, and awe. The magical elements in Ooo mirror the hidden richness of our own world, inviting the dreamer to notice, reflect, and imagine without the pressure of explanation. Ward's approach to humor is equally philosophical. The whimsical, absurd, and playful moments in Ooo are never frivolous. They are intertwined with insight and emotional resonance. Humor softens difficulty, illuminates paradox, and reminds us to approach life with curiosity and levity. Laughter becomes a companion to reflection, a gentle way of balancing the weight of experience with lightness. In this, Ward demonstrates that joy is not superficial, but an essential aspect of understanding and navigating life. The quiet philosophy of Pendleton Ward also celebrates the profound in connection. Interactions, no matter how brief or seemingly trivial, carry weight. A shared smile, a song, a gesture of kindness. These moments ripple outward, subtly shaping the world and the hearts of those within it. Ward's philosophy teaches that attention, care, and presence in these small acts are deeply meaningful. They are the threads that weave relationships, understanding, and emotional growth into the larger tapestry of life. Ultimately, the quiet philosophy of Pendleton Ward is an embrace of life's fullness, its wonder, its absurdity, its impermanence, and its subtle beauty. Ooo becomes a mirror for mindful living, a gentle reminder that meaning is often found in observation, empathy, and presence, rather than in loud proclamations or dramatic conclusions. Ward invites us to move through the world softly, to honor complexity, to cherish the small moments, and to approach life with patience, wonder, and quiet courage. In the end, the philosophy whispers to us as gently as the softest breeze. It reminds us that life, like Ooo, is a place of infinite discovery, that joy and sorrow, play and reflection, absurdity and insight can coexist harmoniously. That understanding emerges not from force, but from attentive presence, and that the quiet, tender moments, those that might go unnoticed in the rush of day-to-day life, often carry the deepest, most enduring truths. As we continue our gentle journey through the dreams and philosophy of Pendleton Ward, we arrive at a place of subtle, profound reflection. This is the segment where we explore the art of release, the way Ward, the man who dreamed a universe into being, learned to let go. Letting go is not an act of abandonment, but of trust. Trust in the story, in the characters, and in the dream itself. In Ooo, letting go becomes both a practical necessity and a quiet, philosophical statement about creation, impermanence, and the nature of life itself. Ward's approach to creation was never about control. From the earliest sketches and concepts to the fully realized episodes, there is a sense that he nurtured ideas, allowed them space, and then observed how they unfolded. Adventure Time is full of surprises that feel spontaneous, even chaotic, yet beneath the surface, they reflect careful intuition. By letting go of rigid structure and embracing improvisation, Ward allowed his subconscious to shape the universe alongside his conscious mind. The result is a world that feels alive, organic, and profoundly dreamlike. The act of letting go is evident in the collaborative nature of Ooo. Ward trusted the writers, animators, voice actors, and artists to contribute their visions, to experiment, and to leave their unique marks on the story. Episodes often evolved in ways he might not have predicted, yet this freedom enriched the narrative rather than diminished it. Ward's philosophy of creation embodies humility, the understanding that a story once shared takes on a life beyond its originator. The creator becomes a guide rather than a commander, allowing Ooo to grow and breathe independently. This willingness to release control also applies to character development. Finn, Jake, Marceline, Bubblegum, and even the Ice King evolved over time in ways that were sometimes surprising, even to Ward himself. Characters acted in ways that reflected authentic, organic growth rather than predetermined outcomes. By stepping back, Ward allowed them to inhabit their own emotional realities. The act of letting go acknowledges that creation is not ownership alone, but participation in a living, evolving process. There is a spiritual quality to this philosophy of release. Letting go is an acknowledgement of impermanence and change. Ward understood that stories, like life, are transient. Episodes air, arcs conclude, and even entire worlds shift. By accepting this natural flow, he imbued Ooo with a quiet grace. Letting go becomes a form of trust. Trust in the process, trust in the audience, and trust in the unpredictable currents of imagination. In this, Ward models a profound meditation on non-attachment, showing that love and care for one's creation can coexist with the wisdom to release it. Ward's personal reflections on creation mirror this philosophy. He often spoke about the joy of discovery and surprise in the creative process. Rather than striving for perfection or strict adherence to initial ideas, he allowed intuition, experimentation, and even accidents to shape the story. Mistakes were embraced as opportunities for insight, not failures to be corrected. This openness to the unexpected reflects a broader life lesson. Letting go is not a loss, but a path to deeper understanding, freedom, and creative growth. The consequences of this approach are evident in the richness of Ooo. The world feels untamed, alive, and full of possibility. Magical artifacts appear and vanish. Characters explore mysteries without neat resolutions, and landscapes shift in ways that reflect both the characters' inner states and the dreamlike logic of the universe. Ward's willingness to release strict control allowed these elements to evolve naturally, creating a sense of wonder and authenticity. Ooo feels like a living dream precisely because its creator learned to trust its unfolding. Even the show's narrative structure reflects this philosophy of release. Episodes often contain unexpected turns, unresolved questions, and lingering mysteries. Ward resisted the temptation to explain every detail, trusting the audience to absorb, interpret, and feel the story in their own ways. This requires patience and openness, both from the creator and the viewer. Letting go becomes a dialogue, a gentle invitation to experience the universe without the need for complete understanding or control. The process of letting go is also evident in Ward's treatment of endings and transitions. Characters grow, change, and sometimes leave arcs unresolved, yet these moments are handled with care and respect. Change is presented as natural rather than tragic, a reflection of the impermanent, evolving nature of existence. Ward's philosophy suggests that closure is not always necessary for understanding, and that letting go can be an act of love both for the creator and for the story itself. Ward's openness extends to emotional expression as well. In Ooo, characters are allowed to feel deeply, to make mistakes, to fail, and to learn. By relinquishing rigid expectations of behavior or outcome, Ward creates a space where authenticity is paramount. The act of letting go fosters vulnerability, empathy, and honesty within the narrative. It reminds us that growth, both in storytelling and in life, requires release the courage to allow events and emotions to unfold naturally, without force or control. By trusting in the self-organizing logic of Ooo, Ward encourages viewers to embrace uncertainty and the beauty of the unplanned. Adventure Time models a gentle surrender to the rhythms of life, showing that when we allow stories, relationships, and experiences to develop organically, they become richer, more resonant, and more meaningful. Letting go is not abandonment. It is a conscious choice to honor the integrity of the universe, to respect the autonomy of characters, and to acknowledge the creative power of mystery and intuition. The creator who let go also teaches us about resilience. By stepping back, Ward allowed his universe to endure beyond the confines of his immediate influence. Ooo continues to inspire, comfort, and teach, precisely because it was not rigidly confined to its creator's hands. Ward's trust in the story and the dream and in the audience demonstrates a profound confidence that life, imagination, and connection can flourish when given room to breathe. Letting go, in this sense, becomes a form of generosity. It is an offering to the universe, to the characters, and to the audience. By releasing strict control, Ward gifts Ooo its life, its unpredictability, and its enduring magic. The universe he dreamed is not frozen by ownership or certainty. It is alive, flexible, and capable of evolving in ways even he could not anticipate. This act of creative generosity mirrors a broader philosophy of existence, that love, care, and wisdom are most powerful when combined with trust and openness. Ward's approach also emphasizes the beauty of imperfection. Ooo is filled with quirks, contradictions, and unexpected juxtapositions. By letting go of perfection, Ward allows these elements to exist authentically. Imperfection is not a flaw. It is an expression of vitality, a reflection of the organic complexity of life. Through this philosophy, we learn that true creativity and true understanding emerge not from control or rigidity, but from openness, patience, and the willingness to embrace what is. As we continue to drift through the philosophy of the creator who let go, it becomes clear that Ward's process was as much about liberation as it was about creation. By releasing his hold on strict narrative structure, character behavior, and even the final form of episodes, he allowed Ooo to breathe and grow with a life of its own. This freedom is palpable in the world itself, a place where magic flows unpredictably, where creatures evolve naturally, and where landscapes shift to reflect emotional truths rather than rigid logic. Letting go, in Ward's philosophy, is an act of trust in the vitality of the story and the intelligence of its audience. Ward's relinquishing of control also nurtured a deep sense of authenticity. Characters feel real because they are allowed to exist in complexity and contradiction. Finn's courage is tempered by doubt, Jake's wisdom by playfulness, Bubblegum's intellect by vulnerability, and the Ice King's chaos by loneliness. Each character moves independently within the world, sometimes surprising even their creator. This dynamic, emergent storytelling mirrors the unpredictability of real life, reminding us that growth, relationships, and experiences are rarely linear. There is freedom and beauty in imperfection, and Ward embraced it fully. The act of letting go also allowed Ward to explore emotional depth without forcing closure. Episodes often leave questions unanswered, conflicts unresolved, and feelings ambiguous. This mirrors the subtle truths of life. Not all experiences provide clear conclusions, and sometimes understanding emerges gradually or indirectly. By trusting the audience to engage with these nuances, Ward cultivates emotional literacy and introspection. Adventure Time encourages us to feel, to wonder, and to contemplate, rather than to demand immediate clarity or tidy moral lessons. Even in the humor and absurdity of Ooo, we see evidence of Ward's release. The nonsensical situations, the playful antics, and the surreal visual compositions are all forms of creative freedom. Ward did not constrain his imagination to strict realism or logic, allowing his subconscious to shape events in ways that feel spontaneous yet resonant. By letting go of rigid expectations, he created a universe where absurdity and insight coexist harmoniously, reflecting the fluidity and unpredictability of both dreams and life itself. Ward's willingness to let go also extends to collaboration. Adventure Time was shaped by a team of talented artists, writers, and animators who contributed ideas, refined stories, and brought their unique perspectives to the universe. Ward's openness to input and improvisation reflects his understanding that creation is not solitary but communal. The act of letting go allows space for others to contribute meaningfully, enhancing the richness and depth of the world while modeling trust, humility, and creative generosity. Letting go is also a form of emotional resilience. Ward allowed himself to embrace uncertainty of storylines, character arcs, and even audience reception without clinging to outcomes. In doing so, he demonstrates that surrender is not weakness, but a vital form of strength. By trusting the process and accepting that not everything can be controlled, he cultivated a narrative and philosophical space where creativity, empathy, and wonder could flourish. Ooo itself becomes a reflection of this philosophy. The universe is mutable, evolving, and responsive to the interplay of characters, magic, and narrative threads. Kingdoms rise and fall, relationships change, and mysteries unfold in unpredictable ways. Ward's release allows the universe to remain vibrant, alive, and endlessly intriguing. By stepping back, he transforms Ooo into a living, breathing world, one that continues to captivate, comfort, and inspire even as it evolves beyond the boundaries of the original episodes. In essence, Pendleton Ward's act of letting go teaches a broader life lesson. Creation, whether of stories, relationships, or personal growth, is not about control, domination, or perfection. It is about nurturing, observing, and trusting. By releasing attachment to outcomes, we allow beauty, authenticity, and depth to emerge naturally. Ward's philosophy encourages patience, humility, and openness, a gentle reminder that letting go is not loss, but an essential step toward freedom, insight, and connection. In the quiet, reflective spaces of Ooo, we see that the act of letting go is intertwined with love. Ward's care for his characters, his world, and his audience is evident precisely because he trusts them to continue evolving without constant guidance. His philosophy suggests that true creativity and connection thrive when we release control, embrace uncertainty, and honor the natural unfolding of life and imagination. As we settle further into the contemplation of Pendleton Ward as the creator who let go, it becomes clear that this act of release is woven into the very fabric of Ooo. The world itself thrives on openness, unpredictability, and the subtle guidance of intuition rather than rigid planning. Magical landscapes shift. Characters pursue paths that sometimes defy expectation, and adventures unfold in ways that feel organic, almost as though Ooo is a living, breathing entity. Ward's philosophy demonstrates that by relinquishing control, creation gains vitality, depth, and a kind of quiet immortality. The subtle art of letting go also allows space for mystery. Ward does not feel compelled to answer every question or resolve every plot point neatly. Episodes contain wonders, surprises, and emotional echoes that remain intentionally unresolved, inviting the audience to linger, ponder, and feel. The quiet philosophy here is that life, like a story, does not always offer clarity or closure. Sometimes the beauty lies in the uncertainty itself and the unfolding journey rather than the destination. By accepting this, Ward models a profound trust in imagination, intuition, and the intelligence of the viewer. Even relationships within Ooo reflect this philosophy of release. Bonds between characters are not dictated by formula or expectation. Finn and Jake's friendship evolves naturally, filled with playful misadventures, quiet moments of reflection, and challenges that test their understanding of one another. Marceline and Bubblegum navigate history, conflict, and love in ways that are never fully linear, yet deeply authentic. Ward allows relationships to develop organically, creating a sense of realism within the fantastical. Letting go in this context teaches the connection thrives not through control, but through attention, empathy, and patience. Ward's personal approach to storytelling mirrors the lessons embedded in Ooo. He embraced improvisation, welcomed unexpected developments, and allowed ideas to evolve spontaneously. Mistakes, accidents, and moments of uncertainty became opportunities rather than setbacks. This philosophy encourages the understanding that creation is a dialogue with the unknown. By releasing the need for certainty, Ward allowed his own subconscious and the collaborative energy of his team to shape the world in ways that were richer and more resonant than any rigid plan could have produced. Though the philosophical implications of letting go extend to the treatment of endings. Adventure Time does not shy away from emotional resolution, yet it also respects the natural ebb and flow of narrative life. Characters grow, change, and sometimes leave storylines open-ended. These moments are not failures of storytelling, but reflections of the impermanence and unpredictability that define both dreams and life. Ward's philosophy reminds us that endings are not always final in meaning or impact. The essence of creation continues in memory, imagination, and the enduring influence of the story on its audience. Magic in Ooo functions as both a symbol and a tool within this philosophy. Artifacts, spells, and mystical beings often guide without dictating. They provoke curiosity, reflection, and emotional response. By letting go of rigid explanations, Ward allows magic to serve as a conduit for wonder, intuition, and insight. The unpredictable nature of magic mirrors the larger principle of release. Life, imagination, and growth are most powerful when allowed to evolve freely, when observed and experienced rather than forced into control. Humor, absurdity, and whimsy further exemplify Ward's trust in the organic flow of storytelling. Ridiculous situations, playful characters, and surreal visuals are never mere distractions. They serve as mirrors for emotional truth, as invitations to explore life from unexpected angles. By embracing the absurd without insisting on rigid explanation, Ward models a philosophy in which laughter, curiosity, and wonder coexist with insight, reflection, and emotional resonance. Letting go allows these elements to interweave naturally, producing richness and depth. Ward's philosophy also celebrates the impermanence of form and identity. Characters, kingdoms, and landscapes in Ooo are mutable, reflecting the ongoing evolution of experience and perception. Finn grows from boyhood to maturity, and relationships shift and deepen, and the world itself changes shape. By relinquishing strict narrative control, Ward allows impermanence to be both a narrative device and a philosophical principle. Change is neither feared nor resisted. It is embraced as a natural rhythm of life and imagination. Even the smallest details in Ooo carry the imprint of this philosophy. A fleeting glance, a brief musical note, or the subtle motion of a background element may communicate emotion, history, or foreshadowing without overt exposition. By letting go of over-explanation, Ward allows the audience to engage intuitively with these details, fostering a quiet form of understanding that mirrors the gentle, subconscious way we perceive our own world. Observation, attention, and trust become key components of experience. Ultimately, the act of letting go in Ward's philosophy is intertwined with love and care. He nurtures the universe, invests in its characters, and crafts its stories with intention, yet he does not cling possessively. By releasing control, he honors the autonomy of the story and the characters in the audience. Ooo thrives because it is allowed to exist as a living, evolving entity, not as a fixed creation confined by expectation. In this, Ward teaches us that the truest form of creation is one that respects freedom, unpredictability, and the ongoing dance between intention and emergence. Letting go, as Ward models it, is both a creative and spiritual practice. It requires humility, patience, and trust. It recognizes that life, art, and imagination are not ours to dominate, but to observe, participate in, and cherish. By releasing his hold, Ward allows Ooo to flourish, resonate, and endure beyond his immediate influence. The world he dreamed continues to evolve, inviting each of us to explore, feel, and reflect within its gentle, magical boundaries. As we settle into the final reflections on Pendleton Ward as the creator who let go, it becomes clear that his philosophy of release is both a creative principle and a meditation on life itself. Ward's act of letting go is not a withdrawal from care, but an embrace of trust in the universe, trust in the characters, trust in the audience, and ultimately, trust in the imagination itself. By stepping back, he allowed Ooo to breathe, grow, and evolve, granting the world an authenticity and vitality that could not exist under tight control. One of the most beautiful aspects of Ward's approach is how it honors the organic development of story. Rather than forcing arcs, enforcing moral lessons, or dictating character behavior, he permitted the narrative to unfold in its own rhythm. Adventure Time is replete with moments where characters follow curiosity, make mistakes, or take unexpected paths. Finn might stumble, Jake might misinterpret a situation, or Marceline might act unpredictably, and yet these deviations never feel like errors. They feel alive. They reflect the unpredictability inherent in life, in dreams, and in the act of creation itself. Ward's release transforms unpredictability into a vital ingredient, a mirror of the natural fluid flow of existence. This philosophy is mirrored in the world-building of Ooo. The landscapes shift in accordance with emotion, circumstance, and narrative resonance rather than rigid geography. Magical elements emerge without full explanation, inviting wonder and contemplation. Kingdoms rise, crumble, and reemerge transformed, showing that even structures we perceive as permanent are subject to change. Ward's philosophy suggests that letting go allows the world and life itself to be responsive, flexible, and alive. When we cease our insistence on total control, beauty and coherence often arise naturally, shaped by intuition, observation, and the interplay of countless small forces. Ward's willingness to relinquish control also extends to emotional resonance. Adventure Time allows sorrow, longing, confusion, and heartbreak to exist alongside joy, wonder, and humor. Characters grieve, falter, and sometimes fail, yet these moments are neither trivialized nor overly dramatized. By letting go of narrative coercion, Ward creates space for authenticity, showing that life and imagination are richer when emotion is allowed to unfold freely. The quiet power of release teaches that holding tightly to outcomes, resolutions, or certainty often diminishes the depth of experience, whereas trust in natural flow amplifies it. Collaboration further exemplifies Ward's act of release. Adventure Time is the product of countless creative minds, each contributing their perspective, artistry, and intuition. Ward's openness to influence and improvisation allowed these contributions to flourish, demonstrating a humility and generosity central to his philosophy. The act of letting go, in this sense, is not surrender, but empowerment, empowering others to participate, enrich, and transform the universe alongside its originator. The world of Ooo is richer because Ward trusted it to the hands, minds, and hearts of many. The act of letting go is also apparent in Ward's approach to endings and transitions. Series finales, character departures, and narrative closures are handled with nuance, tenderness, and trust in the audience's intelligence and emotional capacity. Ward understands that not every question needs an answer, and not every conflict requires resolution. Life, much like his storytelling, often remains ambiguous, unresolved, and dynamic. Through this gentle philosophy, he teaches that acceptance, observation, and patience are as meaningful as control, certainty, or finality. Even the humor and absurdity that permeate Ooo embody this principle. Ward allows for spontaneity, surrealism, and playfulness to thrive without over-explanation or constraint. Absurdity becomes a vehicle for emotional truth, insight, and wonder. By relinquishing strict narrative control, Ward creates space for surprise, delight, and reflection, reminding us that life is as much about curiosity and joy as it is about logic or order. Letting go, in this context, is the gateway to creative freedom and imaginative richness. Ward's approach also celebrates impermanence. Characters age, relationships evolve, kingdoms rise and fall, and landscapes transform. Ooo is never static. By releasing attachment to permanence, Ward captures the natural rhythms of life, teaching that change is not to be feared but embraced. The philosophy of letting go, therefore, is inseparable from the understanding of impermanence. To create, to live, and to imagine fully is to acknowledge the transient, mutable nature of existence and to allow beauty to flourish within it. At its core, the act of letting go embodies love. Ward nurtures his characters, his world, and his audience with care and attention, yet he resists the impulse to control every outcome. This trust allows Ooo to thrive, to surprise, and to endure beyond the confines of its creator's immediate influence. The universe he dreamed continues to evolve, inviting viewers to inhabit it, explore it, and feel it with curiosity, wonder, and emotional openness. His philosophy teaches that creation, like life, is most meaningful when it balances intention with surrender, care with trust, and structure with freedom. Finally, the creator who let go reminds us that release is not emptiness, but a form of generosity and courage. By stepping back, Ward allows imagination, connection, and insight to flourish. He models a philosophy that is both practical and spiritual. Creation, relationships, and life itself thrive when we embrace uncertainty, honor impermanence, and trust in the unfolding of events beyond our control. Adventure Time is a testament to the power of letting go, a dream that continues to live, breathe, and inspire, because its creator learned to release it gently into the world. As we arrive at the final segment of our journey through the dreams of Pendleton Ward, we enter a space both gentle and infinite, the realm of the dream that keeps dreaming. This is a reflection on Ooo not as a finished story, not as a concluded adventure, but as an ongoing, breathing, and evolving dream. Even as episodes ended, as seasons concluded, And as Ward moved on to new projects, the universe he created continues to ripple outward, inspiring imagination, emotion, and reflection in those who enter it. The dream that keeps dreaming exists in many layers. It lives in the episodes themselves, of course, in the magical forests, shifting landscapes, and whimsical kingdoms of Ooo. But it also lives in the minds of viewers, quietly unfurling with each recollection, each reflection, and each rewatch. Adventure Time is not constrained by its medium or by time. It becomes a living experience, an invitation to revisit, reinterpret, and reimagine the world in countless ways. Ward's dream, once shared, transforms into a collective journey, a subtle conversation between creator, characters, and audience that has no final conclusion. The endurance of this dream is a testament to the universality of Ward's vision. Ooo captures the imagination, not merely through spectacle or humor, but through its reflection of life's rhythms, its embrace of emotional complexity, and its celebration of curiosity and wonder. The dream persists because it resonates with something fundamental in the human experience, our capacity for imagination, empathy, and reflection. Every viewer brings their own memories, interpretations, and emotions to Ooo, keeping the dream alive, flexible, and ever-expanding. This dream thrives through the continuity and evolution. Even after Ward stepped back from direct oversight, Ooo continued to grow, both within the show's extended content and in the cultural imagination. Spin-offs, comics, fan art, and theories expand the universe, each contribution adding layers and dimensions to the original creation. Ward's act of letting go, explored in the previous segment, allowed the dream to persist and evolve independently. By trusting the story and the audience, he ensured that Ooo would remain alive in ways even he could not fully anticipate. The dream that keeps dreaming is also reflected in the emotional echoes of Ooo. The experiences of characters, their joy, sorrow, curiosity, and growth resonate long after the screen goes dark. Finn's heroic struggles, Jake's playful wisdom, Marceline's introspective melodies, and Bubblegum's quiet resilience continue to teach, comfort, and inspire. These emotional imprints are subtle, almost imperceptible, yet enduring. Ward's dream sustains itself not only through narrative or visuals, but through the effective space it occupies in the hearts of those who experience it. Magic, wonder, and absurdity remain central to the ongoing dream. The playful, surreal, and occasionally chaotic elements of Ooo invite reinterpretation and exploration. A floating island, a mischievous artifact, or a mysterious portal becomes more than just an object or a plot device. It becomes a portal for imagination itself. The dream is alive precisely because it encourages viewers to wonder, to question, and to engage creatively with the universe. It is a collaborative space where audience and story interact in ways that extend the life of the dream beyond the original episodes. Ward's dream also teaches the quiet persistence of hope. Even in the face of impermanence, change, and challenge, Ooo embodies a gentle optimism. Characters persevere, learn, and adapt, showing that life, like the dream, continues even when outcomes are uncertain. The dream that keeps dreaming is one that affirms resilience, curiosity, and emotional openness. It whispers to us that imagination and kindness, reflection and empathy are forces that endure, shaping the world and our experience of it in subtle, meaningful ways. This ongoing dream is reinforced through the layering of experience and memory. Ooo is filled with echoes of past adventures, callbacks, and intertwined narratives. These threads allow the universe to feel rich, deep, and lived in. As viewers revisit episodes or reflect on character arcs, new insights emerge, and the dream grows more intricate. The universe Ward created is not static, it is cumulative, a tapestry woven from imagination, observation, and emotional resonance. Each engagement with the dream adds new depth, ensuring that it continues to unfold endlessly and quietly, like a river meandering through a magical landscape. Ward's vision of the dream that keeps dreaming also encompasses moral and philosophical subtlety. The choices characters make, the consequences they face, and the emotional lessons they learn are not confined to a single narrative. These experiences invite viewers to contemplate ethics, empathy, and personal growth in ways that extend far beyond the confines of the show. Adventure Time becomes not just a story to watch, but a space for reflection, contemplation, and gentle inquiry. The dream persists because it engages our minds and hearts in an ongoing dialogue. The dream that keeps dreaming also demonstrates the power of collective imagination. Fans, creators, and casual viewers alike contribute to the life of Ooo. Through fan works, discussions, theories, and creative reinterpretations, the universe continues to expand. Ward's act of letting go allowed the audience to participate meaningfully in this ongoing evolution. The dream thrives because it is not closed. It is porous, open to interpretation, and receptive to the countless ways it is experienced and reimagined. Ultimately, the dream that keeps dreaming is a meditation on life, imagination, and the enduring power of creativity. Ooo is a testament to what happens when a dream is nurtured, shared, and trusted to grow beyond the control of its originator. Ward's vision reminds us that stories, ideas, and imagination are not static artifacts, but living experiences that continue to breathe and evolve long after their initial creation. The dream persists quietly, gently, and insistently, carrying lessons, wonder, and emotional resonance forward through time, space, and imagination. As we drift further into the dream that keeps dreaming, it becomes apparent that this universe Ward created is alive not only because of its characters or stories, but because of the subtle, spiritual logic embedded within it. Ooo functions like a living dream, one that shifts in response to curiosity, emotion, and reflection. Every episode, every song, every strange creature contributes to a tapestry that is never truly finished. The dream continues quietly in the mind of the viewer, lingering in thought, memory, and imagination, long after the screen goes dark. The persistence of the dream is also tied to Ward's embrace of impermanence and fluidity. Nothing in Ooo is fixed. Kingdoms rise and fall, characters evolve, and magical forces ebb and flow. This mutability mirrors the rhythms of life and dreams themselves. By not rigidly controlling every element, Ward allowed the universe to evolve organically, creating space for the unexpected, the whimsical, and the emotionally resonant. The dream thrives precisely because it is free to change, to surprise, and to continue unfolding without constraint. Even the absurdity and humor in Ooo contribute to the dream's endurance. Surreal situations, playful twists, and nonsensical antics are not mere comic relief. They are expressions of a creative freedom that ensures the universe never stagnates. By letting imagination guide the narrative rather than strict logic, Ward created a space where wonder and discovery coexist with laughter and reflection. The dream persists because it encourages us to engage our own creativity, to explore, and to allow ourselves to be surprised by life's possibilities. Emotional resonance also sustains the dream. The experiences of Finn, Jake, Marceline, Bubblegum, and others carry lessons of empathy, resilience, and reflection. Moments of joy and sorrow alike linger in memory, offering insight that extends far beyond the episodes themselves. Ward's quiet guidance ensures that the dream is not merely entertaining, but emotionally nourishing. It teaches that imagination, like life, is most meaningful when it engages both heart and mind, and that the dream's persistence depends on the depth of connection it fosters. Ward's dream also emphasizes interconnectedness. The stories, characters, and settings of Ooo are intertwined in a complex, delicate web that mirrors the subtle patterns of thought and emotion in the human mind. By stepping back and allowing these connections to emerge naturally, Ward created a universe that feels coherent, alive, and infinitely rich. The dream continues because it is structured yet flexible, detailed yet open, a reflection of the organic patterns of consciousness itself. The ongoing nature of the dream invites reflection on creativity itself. Ward's willingness to release control, embrace imperfection, and trust in both his team and his audience allowed the dream to expand beyond his immediate influence. Adventure Time demonstrates that a story, once shared, can continue to grow, inspire, and evolve in ways the creator may never fully predict. The dream persists not as a static work, but as a living, participatory experience, nourished by imagination, interpretation, and emotional engagement. Even the quiet, almost imperceptible details contribute to the longevity of the dream. A lingering glance between characters, a fleeting melody, a background landscape shifting subtly, all of these elements invite attention and contemplation. Ward understood that small, seemingly minor details carry resonance, allowing the dream to continue unfolding quietly, patiently, and gently in the minds of viewers. Each revisit, each reflection, adds depth and continuity, ensuring the universe continues to breathe long after the episodes conclude. The dream that keeps dreaming also exists in the dialogues between characters, in the spaces where words are left unsaid, and in the pauses that invite reflection. These moments are intentional, allowing room for emotion, interpretation, and imagination to flourish. Ward's philosophy reminds us that the most enduring dreams are those that do not dictate meaning, but invite it, allowing the audience to inhabit the universe in ways that feel personal, transformative, and ongoing. Ultimately, the dream that keeps dreaming is a meditation on trust. Trust in the imagination, in the audience, in the characters, and in the subtle currents of inspiration that flow beneath the surface of conscious thought. Ward's creation is not confined by the screen or by narrative structure. It exists wherever curiosity, reflection, and wonder are allowed to flourish. Adventure Time endures because the dream has been nurtured, shared, and released, allowing it to continue growing, evolving, and inspiring across time and space. As we continue to drift through the dream that keeps dreaming, it becomes clear that its endurance is tied to the profound simplicity and openness Ward embedded within Ooo. The universe is vast, yet intimate, magical, yet deeply personal. Each viewer, consciously or unconsciously, participates in its unfolding. The world continues to expand, not because it is forced to, but because it invites engagement, curiosity, and reflection. Every glance at the Land of Ooo, every recollection of an episode, and every imagined adventure keeps the dream alive, flowing quietly, like a stream through the imagination. Ward's philosophy allows the dream to persist because it trusts the organic rhythm of narrative and life. Ooo does not demand linear comprehension or rigid understanding. Events unfold according to their own logic, sometimes strange, sometimes whimsical, but always meaningful in a subtle, intuitive way. The universe mirrors the subconscious mind itself, layered, associative, and emotionally resonant. This approach ensures that the dream does not stagnate. It continues to evolve within the mind of the viewer, taking new shapes with every reflection and reinterpretation. The emotional resonance of Ooo is a key pillar in the persistence of this dream. Characters carry experiences that echo beyond the immediate narrative. Finn's growth from a curious, brave child to a more nuanced and reflective hero leaves emotional imprints that linger. Jake's playful wisdom and quiet empathy offer lessons in balance and perspective. Marceline's melancholy and Bubblegum's thoughtful leadership provide insight into the complexity of relationships and identity. Even the Ice King, with his lonely, erratic existence, reflects the subtle truths of desire, loss, and longing. The dream endures because it captures the full spectrum of emotional experience, gently inviting the viewer to contemplate, empathize, and imagine alongside it. Ward's whimsical absurdity also contributes to the longevity of the dream. Surreal visuals, fantastical creatures, and improbable situations are never mere decoration. They are expressions of creative freedom, reminders that imagination is not bounded by logic or expectation. The absurdity functions as a breathing space, a gentle suspension of ordinary rules that allows curiosity and wonder to flourish. By stepping back and letting these moments unfold naturally, Ward created a universe that feels alive, vibrant, and endlessly engaging. The dream thrives because it embraces play, unpredictability, and the joy of discovery. The dream also persists through its layered storytelling. Ooo contains countless threads, narrative arcs, character development, thematic motifs, and subtle visual cues that interweave to create a tapestry of remarkable depth. These threads invite reflection and reward attention, ensuring that even repeated engagement with the universe reveals new insights. Ward's willingness to let the dream evolve organically without over-controlling every detail allows these layers to accumulate naturally. Each revisit to Ooo uncovers hidden patterns, emotional echoes, and narrative subtleties that extend the life of the dream indefinitely. Collaboration and community further extend the dream's endurance. Adventure Time is not solely Ward's creation. It is shaped by a team of talented artists, writers, animators, and musicians who contributed their vision and imagination. Even after the original episodes ended, the community of fans, theorists, and creators continued to expand the universe through interpretation, fan art, and storytelling. The dream that Ward began continues to grow because it was nurtured in a spirit of openness and trust, allowing countless minds to inhabit and enrich it over time. Magic within Ooo embodies both wonder and continuity. Enigmatic artifacts, spells, and mystical creatures do not simply exist to resolve plot lines. They are invitations to explore, reflect, and engage imaginatively. A floating island, a talking sword, or a mysterious portal may inspire stories, speculation, or quiet contemplation. By refusing to confine magic to rigid explanations, Ward allowed it to retain a sense of mystery, ensuring that the dream could continue to unfold in the imagination of viewers long after production ended. Ward's philosophy of impermanence is central to the ongoing vitality of the dream. Characters change, kingdoms evolve, and landscapes shift in ways that mirror the ebb and flow of life. By embracing this natural transience, Ward infused Ooo with resilience and vitality. The dream persists because it is not anchored rigidly to a fixed timeline or static form. It flows like a river, adaptable, alive, and open to new interpretations. Each change, each transformation, enriches the universe and deepens its emotional and imaginative resonance. Even silence and subtlety sustain the dream. Moments of quiet reflection, unspoken emotion, and gentle observation allow the viewer's imagination to fill the spaces Ward intentionally leaves open. A lingering glance, a soft melody, or the shifting light of a sunset in Ooo carries meaning without words. These understated details create a space where the dream continues to breathe and evolve, carried in thought, memory, and the quiet corners of imagination. Ultimately, the dream that keeps dreaming is a meditation on trust, impermanence, and the enduring power of imagination. Ward's vision demonstrates that a story, once shared, has the capacity to grow, resonate, and persist far beyond its origin. The dream lives because it is open, fluid, and collaborative, because it invites curiosity, emotional engagement, and reflection, and because it trusts in the natural rhythms of life and imagination. Adventure Time endures as a living, breathing dream, whispered gently into the minds of those who experience it, continuing to unfold quietly and infinitely. As we drift into the final reflections on the dream that keeps dreaming, it becomes clear that Pendleton Ward's creation is a living meditation, one that stretches beyond the confines of episodes, seasons, or even the television screen itself. Ooo exists in a state of quiet perpetuity, a universe shaped by imagination, trust, and the gentle rhythms of its own unfolding. The world continues to breathe not because it is forced to, but because it was designed to grow organically, to invite curiosity, and to be inhabited by those willing to explore its depths. Ward's dream endures because it balances structure and freedom with subtle, almost imperceptible care. Each story, each character, and each magical element is carefully placed, yet none are bound by rigid expectation. Finn and Jake's adventures, the mysteries of Marceline's past, Bubblegum's experiments, and the Ice King's lonely wanderings all carry a sense of authenticity precisely because Ward allowed them to evolve naturally. The dream persists because it trusts in the intelligence and imagination of its audience, gently inviting participation, reflection, and emotional engagement. Even as viewers, we become custodians of the dream. When we revisit an episode, reflect on a song, or imagine a new adventure in Ooo, we are extending the life of the universe, contributing to the quiet expansion of Ward's vision. Each act of remembering, imagining, or sharing becomes a brushstroke on the living canvas of the dream. Ward's philosophy ensures that the universe is porous and alive, receptive to interpretation, and capable of evolving in ways even he may not have foreseen. In this way, the dream truly keeps dreaming not as a fixed artifact, but as a collaborative, participatory, and endlessly unfolding experience. The beauty of this ongoing dream lies in its ability to balance the extraordinary and the intimate. Grand adventures coexist with small, tender moments. Epic conflicts mingle with quiet reflection. Ward's storytelling allows for both scale and subtlety, showing that imagination is most enduring when it reflects the layered textures of life itself. The dream persists because it captures the fullness of experience, the playful, the melancholic, the profound, and the absurd in ways that resonate across time, age, and culture. Magic remains a central thread in the perpetuation of this dream. Enigmatic spells, mystical creatures, and whimsical artifacts do more than entertain. They inspire curiosity, reflection, and creativity. By not over-explaining the fantastical, Ward allows magic to retain its mystery and vitality, encouraging viewers to fill the gaps with their own imagination. In doing so, the universe remains flexible and alive, always ready for new interpretations, new stories, and new emotional connections. The dream also endures because it is emotionally rich and authentic. Characters are flawed, evolving, and capable of surprise. Moments of joy, grief, humor, and introspection linger in memory, creating a subtle emotional resonance that extends beyond the episodes themselves. Ward understood that letting characters exist with complexities and imperfection creates a dream that feels alive. Adventure Time continues to touch hearts and minds because these emotional truths resonate quietly, inviting reflection and empathy long after the story has been told. Even the absurdity and whimsy of Ooo serve a deeper purpose. Strange happenings, playful jokes, and surreal landscapes are not mere distractions. They are manifestations of creative freedom and subconscious logic. By allowing the absurd to coexist with the profound, Ward created a universe that mirrors the multifaceted nature of dreams themselves. The dream persists because it honors curiosity, playfulness, and wonder, allowing the mind to wander freely through its unpredictable, magical terrains. Ward's openness to impermanence and change is another reason the dream continues to flourish. Landscapes shift, kingdoms rise and fall, and characters grow in ways that mirror the rhythms of life. By embracing transformation rather than resisting it, Ward ensured that Ooo would remain alive, adaptable, and endlessly intriguing. The dream keeps dreaming because it is never static. It flows like a gentle river, its course guided by intuition, emotion, and imagination, capable of surprising and delighting those who enter its waters. The quiet philosophy embedded within Ward's dream encourages patience, reflection, and trust. Viewers are invited to linger, to observe subtle details, and to engage emotionally without needing immediate resolution or explanation. Every glance, every sound, and every interaction carries weight and resonance, allowing the dream to continue growing in quiet, meaningful ways. By leaving space for imagination and interpretation, Ward ensures that Ooo is not merely consumed, but experienced, internalized, and cherished over time. Finally, the dream that keeps dreaming reminds us of the enduring power of creativity, trust, and letting go. Ward's universe persists because it was nurtured with care, released with trust, and designed to engage minds and hearts in ongoing dialogue. Adventure Time is more than a story. It is a living meditation on imagination, impermanence, and the quiet wonder of being. The dream stretches infinitely, whispering through the minds of all who encounter it, inviting reflection, curiosity, and gentle contemplation. In the end, Pendleton Ward's dream is a gift that continues to breathe, evolve, and inspire. It is a universe born from imagination, nurtured by trust, and sustained by those who experience it. Who keeps dreaming because it is designed to, because it is alive in the quiet spaces of thought and memory, and because it carries within it the enduring magic of a creator who understood the power of letting go. And so as we close our eyes tonight and imagine the quiet, whimsical landscapes of this timeless universe, we allow the dream to continue softly, gently, infinitely. Good night.